Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy. We are back with another tier video. This is our second tier video that we've done on the channel. We had a really good time doing the James Bond one last year. And ever since we did that, and we've been chatting about, behind the scenes, tier list is something that we wanted to kind of bring back semi-regular to the channel whenever there's something big coming out. And there is something big coming out. In 3 weeks' time, we have Matt Reeves' The Batman, which we're all excited for, out of my mind for it. In fact, it's easily one of the most anticipated films of what was meant to be last year is now this year. And we wanted to celebrate accordingly. So every Friday, we're going to have some kind of Batman content, and we've got plenty of tier lists lined up as well. And today, the tier list is going to be on the various Batmen and allies. There's love interests in there, Commissioner Gordon's, everyone, all the allies, they're all in there in one very nice, easy to view tier list. And we're going to go through it similar how we did it last time. We'll go over the rules of everything in a second. But before we dive into this thing, which is going to be very fun, over to George with the socials.
Absolutely, guys. So I say comment with your favorite Batman, comment along to the tier video. There will be a link in the description. So if you are watching this, you can load it up, do your own, take a screenshot, tweet it to us, all that kind of stuff. So get involved. But anything you disagree with, as I'm sure many Batman fans will about many things, comment that and just let us know your thoughts. These tier list videos, it was fun to do Bond, and it's different because we're now doing characters, and we used to do Battle of the Brackets where we argue about characters, but this is a civilized discussion. We will go over this very shortly, but hit that subscribe button, Chris. A lot more Batman stuff on the way. And where you can tweet us your abuse or anger is at cinema_savvy. And then, of course, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinema-savvy. We're also on there. And we have a TeePublic link in the description below. But joining us for the first time, we have Neil from Get Your Comic On as well. Delighted to get you on. And I'm actually going to put you on the spot straight away. I know you saw Batman 66 at the cinema recently, and I'm very envious.
Yes.
So please tell me how that was on a big screen.
It was crazy. It was the first time I've seen it on the big screen as well, and it was so cool. So it was at the Prince Charles Cinema in London. It was the upstairs screen, which is like a really nice, intimate little screen, and it was a really cool audience of quite hardcore fans who were sort of interacting with the film and laughing along and laughing at some of the really cringe lines. Only thing was, it was the remaster. I thought they might have pulled out an old film reel, but it was like the Blu-ray version. And there is some stuff that I have never noticed in that film before, and I've watched that film many, many times. But blowing it up on a big screen, I was like, oh, Adam West and Burt Ward were never in that Batmobile. They were never in that boat. It's stunt doubles everywhere. I'm like, what did they actually do in this film? But it's just so cool to see it. That film, as kitschy and as campy as it is just an absolute classic.
Yeah, it's and as you said, like when you see films like older films that you might have seen on video or DVD on a small screen, whatever, it's a completely different experience watching it on the big screen, isn't it? So yeah, hopefully they do another rescreening of that, because that'd be amazing. George, I'm going to hand over to you to explain this tier list a little bit more, because we've got categories again with various names and what they correspond to. Yeah, if you want to kind of go over it, because this is your baby, isn't it? Like you created this thing, like all the graphics you're about to see. George worked very, very hard to get them all done. So yeah, if you want to go over how we're going to be breaking this down and hopefully not treading on anyone's toes if we put something in a category that people don't agree with, which there might be plenty of actually, but
no, of course. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen. So guys at home, if you didn't know our Bond one, I'm just going to go over what we do. We each have our own tier. It's not a joint one for the three of us. We're all going to have our own ranking, because let's be blunt, there's going to be certain things, not maybe Batman, but if there was another tier list video for another time, there'll be, me and Chris, we're very similar. There's going to be no agreements on certain characters from certain franchises, isn't there? And you know what? Why not just do one each and present it to you at home? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to screen share mine now. And this is what it's going to look like for everybody at home. We have 6 tiers for this one. So there were 5 for Bond. Now, obviously, Bond was a song, which is a lot more, I guess, easier to cover, to do, songs across a 60-year franchise versus characters from a 60-year franchise. And I'm going to go over some of the rules I've written down. So the first one, between us, we agreed that only theatrical films are going to be on here. So we've, of course, got Batman 66. What do you guys call the 89 to 98? I always call it the anthology, because that's kind of what it's been known as now. Even though it couldn't have been any more different. We've got the Nolan trilogy, the DCEU, because he didn't actually get his own film in that, which will be something we get to discuss another time. And we have Mask of the Phantasm and the Lego Batman movie. So sort of they're the eras as such. We've put these in year date as best as we can, group together. And essentially what we're going to be doing, we've got 6 tiers here, as I mentioned. Now, You may be thinking, why are they locations? And the correct answer is that I just honestly couldn't think of 6 quotes that could perfectly epitomize this. So we're going to send the characters to the locations based on where we want them to be as a tier. So, you know, if you don't know how tier lists work, you put the best ones at the top, the worst ones at the bottom. So the Batcave is the top tier, the elite tier, we're going to call it. Wayne Manor is the pretty great tier that's kind of iconic. You really enjoy them. There's a character, how they're developed or whatnot. Now, this is where it's going to get confusing, so please bear in mind. The Iceberg Lounge, I'm just calling it okay. It's average. It's all right. You know, it's what it is. And the Amusement Mile, for the Arkham fans, Chris, you point out as well, I'm really struggling to come up with locations for this one because I'm calling this the Deserve Better tier. I know it would have been D normally if it was alphabetical, but this is very much the, you know, it might be okay, it might not be good, but this character or iteration deserve better. They might not have had their own film. They might have been in another film for like 30 seconds, and it's really hard to get a sense of what they're about. The 5th tier, Blackgate Prison, quite simple. It's bad. And the truly rotten tier, Arkham Asylum, don't come back. We don't ever want to see this character come back. And we're going to announce what the next Batman tier list is at the end. It might be quite easy to guess. So I've just said there's a character I don't want to ever see come back, and one's going to spring to everybody's mind. But we'll announce that at the end of this video. But yeah,
I'll say there's a couple of caveats with it. I'll just say as well, like, we say theatrical. I know the Killing Joke, you know, had a short theatrical run. We haven't included that. And you might, you know, you DCEU fans out there might be going, well, what about the rest of the Justice League? They're technically allies of Batman. If we went into that, it'd be getting way out of hand. And this video would be going on for about 3 hours with every other side character in the Justice League film. So we have just kept it to Alfred, Commissioner Gordon, you know, just for the sake of keeping it simple.
Yeah, you know, there's more characters we could have had. Some, you know, we cut out. I mean, Lego Batman, for example, Commissioner Gordon is in it for a couple of scenes, if that. But because he gives it to his daughter, Barbara Gordon, she's essentially Commissioner Gordon for the film, and also Batgirl. So there's a couple of things. So maybe comment if you disagree with anything, if you think you missed anything out. As I said, we'll unveil the next tier list at the end of the video. But I'm quite excited to do this because we've never done a character one, and it's been a while since Bond. And if anybody has any questions, I don't mind starting with mine now, because I was about to say it's gonna get weird. I'm not gonna go for the let's get nuts, maybe for another time. But yeah, I'm going to kickstart. Oh god, you know what we said about the Bond one, that it was really nervous when you actually started doing it.
Mate, it's very vulnerable, isn't it? Yeah, it's you kind of laid bare. Yeah,
yeah. So what I'm going to also say for people at home, in the description, when you click on it, the list will look slightly different in order to this because for some reason the website doesn't listen to numeric numbers in order. So we've just ordered it to the years in release. But yeah, I'm gonna kickstart as always. Chris, Neil, if you want to comment on any of mine, you're more than welcome to do so. There may be some controversial ones. However, I don't think it will be as controversial as Madonna in the Bond tier, so I'm being honest. I don't have...
That was shocking, by the way.
Is there going to be a wild card, though? What is going to be the Madonna equivalent of this tier list? That's what I want to know.
Well, yeah, and this is it. And I keep looking at the tiers, and it's really tricky because, you know, you've got like the 60s Batman film, and we're starting with that. I know you put 60s Batman next to like Nolan or Keaton, and it's like it couldn't be any more different from anything else you're ever going to get. So starting with the 60s one's weird, but straight away I'm actually going to put I'm putting Batman at the top. Adam West.
Yeah, there we go.
You know, I mean, you can see behind me, I've got the box set from when they released it on Blu-ray.
I love that box
grew
set.
up with this, and this is like 60s Batman. I feel there's a certain age group that are never going to ever get to watch it. I think when I was watching the Lego movie recently, it's like, oh, and that weird guy from the 60s is like, no, it's Adam West, and it made me think because a kid growing up, you know, you had. Well, I had Batman and Robin and Batman Forever. I hadn't seen the two before it in 60s Batman. And I think a lot of kids knew who 60s Batman was, but I don't think nowadays the younger generations would, which is a massive shame. They have seen it, then obviously comment it and tell me wrong, but Adam West deserves to be there for me. I think he is the, not epitome of the character, but I think his impact on the character is like his legacy with it is incredible. And how do I follow up? And then I'm stuck with Robin because you know, Burt Ward's great as Robin, and I think he is the definitive Robin at the moment. So I'm going to actually put him next to Adam West because they're a duo, right? It's the dynamic duo. Like, and the whole point
Yeah.
of the series was those two together, and I don't think Robin's ever been bettered. Certainly, well, on the big screen in film, there's been many of them, including one of them being a tease for an ending of a trilogy, which I know Chris will get to later on.
Oh yeah, we will.
But yeah, and then we've got Catwoman. Madalo's just gone out, Miss Kitka.
Yeah, so
And I
this is
quite
her
like
one and
it.
only, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, and this is where I'm torn because everything about the 60s era feels, I hate using the word iconic, it sounds like Screen Junkies, but there's a certain look for everything. But I'm going to put her here. The Pretty Great. I think she is great. I know that she wasn't, and it's really hard to, because she didn't play her in the series. They had a different actress for the series as well who couldn't do the film. I think there was 3 total.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think the costumes speak for themselves. The whole 60s era. There's a Lego set I've not bought, which I've wanted to buy for years, which is the 60s Batcave that's got all the minifigures of all the classic characters, and I don't think that's ever been bettered. Maybe it's going to be harsh looking at the next one, Commissioner Gordon. I never really felt like he does anything. I think, again, it's awkward to me because, you know, minors. I don't think he's bad, but he's kind of average. So I'm gonna chuck him here at being polite. Maybe he should be low, but I don't think he deserves better. I just think there's not much there to work. And also in the 60s, it's not about working with Commissioner Gordon. Doesn't really get to do anything until Gary Oldman, I've always thought personally, outside the animated series. Alfred, though, I've always loved this take on Alfred. I think he's one of those characters. I think it's Alan Napier that played him. He just did what you needed to do as butler, so he's going to go in the good category. Wayne Manor. I mean, it's quite right for Alfred to be at Wayne Manor, but that's going to round out the 60s one. I feel like I'm talking too much.
No,
From the
this is all
60s era, you can't really criticize the 60s Batman, though, can you? Like, contextually, you can't.
Oh, it completely captured like the time at that time in the 60s, certainly, of what Batman was.
Totally.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And it had such a huge impact on the comics as well. It fed straight back into what was going on. I mean, as soon as that show became a massive hit, it changed the way the comics were being written, and they suddenly became, you know, incredibly campy as well, and fit in with what was happening in the show. And it did wonders for the comics and kept it going to the 60s and 70s until they needed to reinvent in the 80s.
And talking of reinventing in the 80s, we've got Keaton, who, by the way, if anyone wants to criticize the photos, I've tried to go for like the iconic Batman image of each Batman, and I don't think there is a better image of Keaton's Batman that fits in a square photo than this one. That's why I wanted the gun thing, but it just looked really weird that he was like pointing an arm up because he had to crop the gun out of his face. But listen, it's weird if I don't put him up here. I know I'm not the biggest fan of Batman Returns, but you can't not think about how big that film is, what he did for the character, and the fact here we are 30 plus years later, and he's going to be coming back later on this year to play Batman, which is insane to think about, that Keaton's doing this. So he's going to go there. However, the first victim of the night is going to be Vicky Vale. I've never liked her. I'm sorry. She's going to Blackgate Prison. You know, don't come back. Again, I think it's that when you're setting up, you know, this character, you know, this 80s. I mean, I can't remember the behind the scenes, but didn't Warner Brothers kind of oppose Tim Burton for a lot of it, or was that, I can't remember if there was like issues behind the scenes, or if that was Batman Returns, but I think the focus was on Batman and the Joker, and Vicky Vale just kind of, she reminds me of, what's her name from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Willie Scott.
And I really like Willie Scott. I really like Willie Scott, but I never really cared for Vicky Vale. We have to talk about Michael Gough, who, you know, he's like everyone's grandfather, Alfred. I don't know where to put him. I feel like he deserves to be at the top tier because he had like this amazing presence, and he did a whole era of Batman, right? He 3 Batmans under his wing, and he's just cuddly. I mean, he's like the opposite of Michael Caine, isn't he? But he was great as Alfred, so I'm going to give him there. And then I've got to talk about another Commissioner Gordon, Pat Dingle, who, I'm not going to lie, he doesn't really get to do much, but I think he's okay. again, I think it's that era where you can't really develop supporting characters in a Batman film. Like comic books today, we can have spin-offs of spin-offs and all that kind of stuff, which is great. But in 1989, no one cares about Commissioner Gordon's rise up the ranks to being the commissioner, which is the way it should be when you're establishing these characters. So I'm going to put that there. Now, the Catwoman, I know Chris, we spoke before. She's more of a villain in this. We've kind of grouped the cat women together in this because there always seems like a love interest or something as well.
Should we look at this one more from like the Selena Kyle perspective and maybe go into Catwoman for a potential future video?
Yeah, because I've always said I've not been the biggest fan of Returns, and I do want to give it another go. I probably will before Keaton's back into the year, but I've never, not that I've not cared. It has been a while since I've seen it. I'm gonna be polite and upset some people, and stick Selena Kyle here. And I'd say maybe this is because again, people are gonna clock it when we get a photo. I've got attachments to other eras, but I think it's more that I need to rewatch Batman Returns, and maybe in 6 months' time it will be a tier above. But at the moment, it's like I'm not going to put it on that top tier, but it's like it's way ahead of the others already. But yeah, the scene of cast with Keaton, I never really cared for it, if I'm going to be honest. But again, I might be wrong. It has been a long time since I've seen Batman Returns. I'm going to keep saying that. And then we've got Val Kilmer. Who I love Batman Forever. I know Rob Pattinson has upset a lot of people recently by saying, there's no such thing as a bad Batman film, which I respect him for saying.
Yeah, I really respect him for saying that, actually.
Yeah, and I don't think he's wrong either. I think, certain people moan about Forever and Robin, and I'm there like, well, I grew up with them because I was a kid, and the target audience was children, and that's why I've always liked them. And obviously, you get a bit older and you realize that he somehow filmed Heat at the same time as Batman. I'm going to say he deserved better. And that sounds really unfair. He only got to do one film. And I think it's hard to judge them off one film, but I don't think Val Kilmer's Batman was that bad. I don't think he was particularly great, but I think maybe if there was other material, he could have, I don't know, not done more, but I don't think they played up to Val Kilmer's strengths. And again, as I've hit the age, I realized that he shot Heat at the same time as Batman, which is mental. Damn, not that I need Batman with a machine gun on the streets of LA. Doing anything.
You get that with Affleck's probably, but
yeah. We'll get to that on the DC fans opinion.
I've started early, everyone.
It's fine. Chris O'Donnell's Robin. Never liked him as a kid. I'm sorry. I know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if anyone has it. We've never really spoke about him, have we? But I never cared for him. And like when he was always like mopey, like obviously I appreciate like his family's just been murdered.
His family's just been murdered.
Yeah. I really like Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey, so I never really cared about Robin. I don't know. I don't know if it's bad acting or bad writing, but I think what they tried to do with Robin was maybe a couple of years behind. How do I describe it? Like, he doesn't strike me as like a Robin for kids or anything. Like, not that you need it, but I don't. I think he got 2 films at the end of the day. I think by the end of the second one, I just didn't think it was working.
I do really like the costume, actually. Just on a weird tangent, I think they modernized it pretty well. I mean, nipples aside, that's the low-hanging fruit. One of the many low-hanging fruits, actually, when it comes to Joel Schumacher's Batman films. But in terms of modernizing, with the colors like slightly muted, the metallic, I thought they modernized it pretty well, I think, for the time.
Yeah. Oh God. Dr. Chase Meriden.
Oof, here we go.
Now, I'm not a massive Nicole Kidman fan. I never really liked her in. I'm going to chuck it here. I'm sorry. I never really cared for her in Batman Forever. I think this is going to come down to this Tommy Lee Jones, Jim Carrey thing. Like, anytime those two are on screen was just wonderful. And then you grow up and realize that Tommy Lee Jones hated Jim Carrey. And it makes Batman Forever so much better that they didn't get on in real life. But I never really cared about her and like her weird obsession with him. I know she's like the femme fatale. Did she do kickboxing? I remember as well.
Yeah.
And obviously you got the scene at the end where she wants to know who he is, but it just never really worked. And I don't think she had good chemistry with Val Kilmer. I don't know if that's just me. Maybe that sits on that opinion, but I've got her quite low. And then we have George Clooney. Here we go. This is a tricky one. This isn't where I'm putting him. I'm just holding him in the middle of the
Mhm.
screen. Now, I've cropped this to avoid the bat nipples, but so it could also fit in a square image. But I didn't ever like George Clooney as Batman. I know I was very young, but I hadn't seen any of his other stuff. Obviously, I know a lot. Was it Scrubs or ER he did that made him like a
ER,
sister? And I never really cared for him. And I love Batman and Robin. I think we did a watch on, didn't we, in one of the lockdowns, and that was great. And I love the film. It's great, but his Batman for me, he ain't ever coming back. So he's my first Arkham Asylum, and I don't think George Clooney hides from that either. I think he's actually openly criticised it quite a lot over the years. I think he does joke about it, but that's going to be the first one I put in there. And I guess we've got to talk about Alicia Silverstone's Batgirl as well. I've always been. I love Michael Gough as Alfred, but like many people, you grow up and realize, how on earth did Taunt Uncle make that costume for her? I know it's not meant to be looked at like that, but
Yeah.
really, like, and I didn't think she was any good personally, so I'm torn. I think it'd be too unfair to chuck her in the Arkham Asylum part. I know I've thrown Clooney in there in the same film. It looks like I hate women and I don't, but I think
You got Selena Kyle towards the top. You're fine.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
cool.
You
You're
like
all good.
Catwoman?
I think I'm torn between, don't come back. No, she wasn't that bad, was she? I don't think she deserved better, but I don't think she was truly awful. I think what that script was and what the film is, that's probably a fair reflection of her character. And I don't think she had great chemistry with Robin. So her and Chris O'Donnell kind of work in that sense. But then we've got Mask of the Phantasm, which I can't separate it from the animated series. I know it's a film. I know it's different, but Kevin Conroy is definitively the voice of Batman.
Yeah.
So he has to go there.
I think it
No
was
question.
actually meant to be part of the animated series, and then I think they just got given a bigger budget and were like, right, you're making this into a movie, like,
And I
with
saw it for
very
the first
little
time
to-
tonight.
Yeah.
The first time tonight watching Phantasm, and I know you've got me to watch it for years. I won't give my thoughts properly on it, but because I like the animated series and a lot of the animated series, it just feels like an extension of, like Clone Wars. I know it's obviously way more recent. You get like a 4-episode arc, and it's like, here's a mini movie, and they randomly decided to kickstart with it being a terrible movie. But no, Kevin Conroy right up there. His Alfred's, I think he's fine. I really like the Alfred in the animated series, but for the film, I know I'm picking and choosing like animated series for Batman, but with the Alfred, I'm just going to put him in okay. I think he services the role as the butler very well. Again, it's that time of Batman for me when you're not going to develop them too much aside from that. I don't know if that's deemed controversial or not.
That's fine.
And I'm going to chuck Gordon in the same okay. Again, oh no, that's harsh. No, sorry, I'm going to put Gordon here because I think with Commissioner Gordon, it's when you get such a two-dimensional character. I've always liked this Gordon. I don't know what it is about him, but he has a presence even in animated form where they're trying to do stuff with him. I don't know whether it's the voice acting this, but even this film, he's like, Batman's not a killer. Batman won't kill. That wouldn't be him. It's proper like going for the defense. I'm going to put Gordon there, but I think it's like the low end of being good for that film. And then we're getting to the moment I've been waiting for, which is the Nolan.
This is your bread and butter right here, isn't it?
This is it. I could honestly go on about all of them, but this is going to be almost a clean sweep. I'm sorry. Christian Bale's going right to the top. Look at that photo. I know it's Madonna Rises, but everyone's going to say my Batman at some point. This is obviously mine. I just think that the whole trilogy, 3 films, beginning, middle, and end, all that kind of stuff. You can't look past it and what it's done for cinema, his career, Nolan, all that. So there's top tier number 1. Michael Caine, you're not going wrong with Michael Caine either. He's going straight to the top. Again, Alf, this is the time when you realize you can develop these secondary characters. You can give them story arcs, and it's not about comparing Alfreds, but you can do this in 2005. You can make Alfred the accomplice, which is a great joke in this in Dark Knight as well. So Michael Caine deserves to go there, especially for his speech in the 3rd film when he starts crying. And then we've got Kate Holmes. I know you're both going to get your chance to talk about Kate Holmes later, but I'm I don't know what to do with this because I saw Dark Knight before Begins, didn't I, Chris? We had this discussion a couple of years ago. I've always had an not attachment to Maggie Gyllenhaal, but like Kate Holmes was felt like the imposter, even though she was the first one. But I've never really cared for her. But I don't think it's her fault. So I think I'm gonna chuck Katie Holmes just in okay. I think she's okay. I think she's serviceable for the plot. You know, you got the whole backstory stuff. You got the love interest. You know, you got all that. But I think she's okay. I'm not too fussed she didn't come back because obviously I see who did. But I've been hyping up Commissioner Gordon's. Gary Oldman goes straight up there without a shadow of a doubt. I love Jeffrey Wright, and I think without getting into the new film too much, that's one of the things I'm actually looking forward to the most is seeing what they do with Jeffrey Wright's Gordon, because Gary Oldman I think has almost made that his own. I don't know if that sounds unfair or not, but we've got Lucius Fox.
Go on, take him to the Batcave, George. We all know it's going to happen.
He's going to the. This is it. This is just turning like a Christopher Nolan video. You know, come on, like. Was he created for the film, or was he like a character?
No, he was a character.
No. Yeah, he's out of the comics.
Yeah, and again, it's just that whole how do you do the modern day stuff? Well, if we actually have the tech guy, you know, the Q, and it's Morgan Freeman, and he's great, and he's in all three films, and yeah, Maggie Gyllenhaal, short-lived. I'm gonna put her in Wayne Manor. I'm gonna be nice. She can't be at the top. She's in like half a film. She's very good in the half of the film she's in, but I you know, plot-wise, story-wise, I think had Maggie Gyllenhaal have been in Batman Begins, I think it not would have worked better, but you'd have had this clean character for two films. I feel that the jump from Kate Holmes to Maggie Gyllenhaal is so stark in the character and where they're at in their life. Yeah.
She feels like a totally different character, I would say, in the second film, how she's portrayed.
Like, she's settling down to get engaged to Harvey
in a year.
Yeah, and it's like you know the rooftop from a year ago. Like you just forgot, and you know. So I don't think you can put her anywhere above that for me personally. Another Catwoman. I love Anne Hathaway's Catwoman. I know it's because of the Princess Diaries. I was a kid when my sisters rented it from Blockbuster. I always knew who Anne Hathaway was. Not seen Les Mis though, which came out the same year. But I don't think I can put her in the top tier because I'm not fully sold. The settling down happens too quick. And this is where I kind of come from without hyping up the new film too much. The fact we're going to get Zoe Kravitz for hopefully a trilogy should on paper be the best take we ever get on the character, because if we're going to get 3 films, we're going to get some really cool storytelling. So just because Anne Hathaway's in one film and things happen a bit quick, and her performance is fine, I'm just going to put her at that good tier. I think she's a good love interest. Obviously, you know, had Spider-Man 4 not been cancelled, should have been the Vulturess, and it'd be in another tier list for another Spider-Man video. And then we have John Blake. Chris, what's his first name?
I'm holding it back, mate. I'm holding it back. Wait till my tier list. It's fine. It's fine.
I really like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I don't mind the character of John Blake, but I don't think he's on a level of all these above him. So he's going to... Oh, no, sorry, I'm not ranking him. No, I'm going to put him in the okay section. He coming in at the last film, let's be blunt here, off the back of Inception, let's get the Inception cast back together. I think he's serviceable for Dark Knight Rises. I do really like him, but I don't think I can put him with any of the others yet. And he's got my favourite line, which is that proper New York, like, what are you doing here, huh? When he's like shouting at the construction yard people. But I feel a bit guilty about that. But I don't think I can put him higher. And I really like Joseph. Is it because I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt more than his character? That's kind of my conundrum now.
You got to take all bias aside, George. Like,
exactly. This is it, and this is where it's going to get harder. Because how the hell do you rank Lego people? But Will Arnett's Batman is exceptional, and I don't think he has any right to be good. Like on paper, the Lego movie should never have worked. And then we got a Lego Batman movie, which should never have worked, and it also worked. And I rewatched it last night, the first time since the cinema. And I was weird. You know, sometimes you watch a film the second time years later and think, how on earth I think that was funny. The jokes still landed for me. So I'm actually going to put Will Arnett up here.
Oh, nice.
I think he pulls it. It's really hard to compare animation to live action, like because
Yeah,
it makes it
yeah,
unfair on like I know I prefer live action stuff. I've said that before, but it makes it really hard to talk about some of these properties and stuff without oh he's a Lego piece. Well, should Lego be able to be animated and talk? Well, it does, and it's phenomenal. And he has a whole arc about being alone and fatherhood, so he's going to go there. Michael Cera's Robin is the best thing we've had since Burt Ward, so he's going to go there. I can't really fault him. Michael Cera is perfectly cast as him. But I don't think he's at that top tier. I don't think like he's a definitive Robin by any means. I think he is maybe the best Lego Robin we'll ever get, and they tease up a lot of stuff. But I think he fits it really well. And again, it's a character I didn't think would work in a Lego film, but it did. And we've also got Batgirl / Barbara Gordon, who's basically playing Commissioner Gordon in this film. That's why she's not her dad's. I think she's okay. I don't mind her in the film. I think she has a bit more to do, but again, it's that Lego conundrum, isn't it? Like it's hard to compare it to some of the stuff a bit, but I don't think it's on that level yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got Lego Alfred, played, of course, like Ralph Fiennes, who I think did he do an interview saying that he wanted to play him in the Matt Reeves films, which really triggered me because he would be so good in live action Alfred, especially after watching as much as I dislike Wes Anderson and Grand Budapest Hotel. But I think his Alfred's great. I'm going to put him up there. I'm going to be polite. I don't think he's on Will Arnett's level, but had he have, got a live action jump, has that ever happened before? Has anyone ever done live action and animated of the same character? I know that technically Billy D. Williams did with Two-Face to a cameo point.
I'm sure there's some. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank at the moment, but I'm sure some people have.
Does the Trickster count with Mark Hamill?
Yeah.
And they've got the DCEU.
Oh, here we go.
Good thing YouTube doesn't have dislike bars anymore, because we'll never know. No, Affleck's a really hard one because I think he's been horrifically hard done by. I think Ben Affleck had the potential to be at the top. I think his take on the character had the potential, his performance, his work as a director, his commitment to the role. But I think his source materials let him down, and I don't think it's Ben Affleck's fault at all. And I don't think he had the chance to get the best out of the character. And hopefully in November we're going to get. I don't want to say I don't think he needs a redemption for his character. This is my problem. I'm stuck where to put him because he deserves a hell of a lot better, but he's already like up here for me. So I'm kind of torn. Like, do I say he deserves better, or do I stick him up there? And this is where I'm lost because it's the sort of the combination of the two, where I think he's great from what we got of him, but ultimately he's the only Batman on this list that didn't lead his own film. He's a supporting character in someone else's, and I know it's co-titled Batman versus Superman, but let's be blunt here, it's Man of Steel 2.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get enough from the Batman side of things for me personally, so I'm gonna put him here. But he 100% deserves better. He should be really here, but I don't want him to be under all this. But I think Affleck's Batman is a character that should have ended up here, based off what they could have done with him. And again, that's no fault of Ben Affleck's. That is Warner Brothers through and through, as they always do. And I'm going to test the nerves of some people watching and say that I also think there was a slight bit of misinterpretation from Zack Snyder with his Batman. Certainly for the killing scenes, which I know is a heavily discussed thing. And I know a lot of people are upset that Rob Pattinson said Batman doesn't kill. And I know that is a whole other discussion within itself. Don't get too angry, DC fans. Hopefully, as I said, November, he gets this moment. Jeremy Irons, he didn't really get to do anything. Like I'm going to put him in deserve better because I think he was good from what we got of him, but we didn't get enough from him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you look at Jeremy, it's Scar from The Lion King, and in House of Gucci, he got to call Jared Leto mediocrity, which was one of the greatest scenes of the year. And I don't know that's him acting or that's him saying it in front of the camera. So, again, like I'm kind of curious. Like, do I approach these as like, because we've had the Dark Knight trilogy and comic book films have evolved over 60 years to going in depth on supporting characters. He serves a purpose, but I think we could have got more of Jeremy Irons. I think he also deserves something better to work with, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then we end on J.K. Simmons, not as J.J. Jameson, but as Commissioner Gordon. And what would we? I mean, I know I'm clutching at straws here. I don't want to say he does better, but he was basically hardly in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put him as okay because I think he's okay. I know he's going to be in Batgirl, and we're actually going to get scenes from him now, and we're going to get him developed. So, is it November that film's due out, or March next year? I can't remember now. But
November, December, I think. The film's set at Christmas, so I would imagine it's going to be a Christmas release.
And it has George the Jungle in it, which is the most important thing about that film. So, you know, hopefully maybe in December this list is outdated, and we've had a new Affleck film, we've had a new Gordon stuff, but that's where I'm going to round out with mine. The time being, I'm going to quick ask both of you. Anything controversial that stands out?
Oh, let me give it a gander. I mean, it was quite interesting. I was checking Neil's expression every time you were moving some Tim Burton stuff around. We had like shared expressions most of the time, so that was quite telling.
Yeah,
I think it's a solid tier list. In all honesty, the Christian Bale stuff is no surprise. Like that was a foregone conclusion. But no, I think that's pretty solid across the board. In all honesty, there might be one character on there that you've ranked significantly higher, where I'll probably rank that character. I'm not going to give away which one. I've alluded to which one it might be.
Ooh.
But yeah, no, I think that's solid.
Oh, I think I might know.
Yeah.
It's one of two I'm thinking of.
Look towards the middle of the screen. That's all I'm saying.
It's still one of two. There's two in the middle.
Okay.
That's fine. I'm curious now. But yeah, Neil, any surprises? Anything that's
similar? Actually, I think there's someone in the middle-ish who I will definitely put somewhere different to where you put them. I might have something slightly controversial about one of the Batmen. Who might not be in a similar position to where you put them, but won't be too far away.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Well, that's me intrigued for that one. So, what we'll do, again, people at home, the second one we've done, we're going to go through each of ours now, and then we will rank them at the end. So, we'll each bring our screens back up, and then we'll actually order the tiers themselves, which is going to probably be where the real chaos begins. But yeah, so what I will do, I'm going to let go of my screen share now. There we go. So that is the three of us back on as normal. Next up, we have Neil doing his. So if you want to hit the screen share button, we should be able to get it up and onto the stream for you.
Where am I? There we go.
Perfect. There we are.
Okay. I feel a slight bit of pressure right now.
Right? This is what happens every time.
Yeah.
You
suddenly just gone really tight-chested. Oh. Right. Okay. Well, it's a pretty easy place to start, isn't it? Adam West has got to go. Absolutely iconic. That's my first exposure to Batman as a kid, growing up on reruns of 66. So, for a long time, he was my Batman until I saw Michael Keaton. So I was too young to see either of Keaton's films at the cinema because they were both 15s at the time. So Forever was my first experience of Batman at the cinema. So really, I grew up on kind of reruns of the 1940s black and white serials and Adam West. So similarly, Burt Ward going straight up there. Absolutely iconic. I wish they could have had the two of them together for Crisis on Infinite Earths when Burt Ward got to come back for just that one scene. It would have been great to have seen the two of them together, but so nice that DC still brought him back just to kind of give him another moment as Dick Grayson. This is a tough one. Lee Merriweather.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have to throw out the fact that she is not in the series. She's not Julie Newmar. She is just this one-off. And I think the whole Miss Kitka thing is quite funny. And having just rewatched it at the cinema, she does I feel like she's almost better out of the costume than she is in the costume. The thing that kind of griped me about the film when she's in costume is she constantly makes cat noises, which Julie Newmar doesn't do. that I can recall, Eartha Kitt obviously does the purr and has that in the way that she speaks. But if you if you watch the '66 movie, like Lee Merriweather in the submarine scenes when they're kind of watching the action above water, she's constantly going like, and it's so annoying that it kind of makes me want to put her. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to blackgate her. You know, she's kind of annoying, but she's not bad. She's just not. Yeah, the cat noises just put her down the bottom for me, I think. This version of Commissioner Gordon, I think I'm going to go with an amusement mile. I feel like he served a purpose, and you were spot on in saying that this is an era where characters, like supporting characters, just weren't developed because you just didn't need them to. I mean, in a half-hour TV show, I know they were airing 2 episodes a week, but character development wasn't the name of the game, and he was there to serve a purpose, and that was just to kind of get the exposition there and give Batman the mission of the week. So I think he's fun to watch. He's great in the role for what it is and how it's written. But as a Commissioner Gordon, I think he could have been better. Alfred, absolutely iconic. Go straight up the top. I think he's brilliant. He is. You get that paternal nature from him towards both Bruce and Dick, I think, in the show, and I think he was just great. And I love the episodes where he gets to step in. Obviously, I have to think theatrically, so I'm trying to think about what he does in the film. I was about to start talking about his relationship with Batgirl, but that would be season 3. In the film, again, yeah, I mean, he gets to drive around in the Batmobile when he's driving around in the park. He gets to put his little domino mask on, which for some reason is going to disguise him. I think he's just great in the role, and I feel like whenever you watch him perform as Alfred, you can see how much he enjoyed being in the role as well, which I think for the series is just great. And again, for the film, it just works so well. Keaton, he gets the classification of my Batman. He is my Batman. So he goes straight up there, and I'm so excited that he is going to be back for the Flash and back for Batgirl as well. I cannot wait to have more of him and more interviews in which he's really nonchalant and dismissive about the fact that he's Batman and the fact that he doesn't care that we all enjoy the fact that he's Batman. So he just, from the first time I saw Batman '89 on VHS, like that scene in Silhouette where he just drops down in the background on the rooftop, I was just like, this is my hero for life. This character is my character. I know it's not necessarily the most comic accurate, but as far as I'm concerned, he is untouchable, flawless. Love him. For similar reasons, this version of Alfred goes up. Oh, does he go Wayne Manor or does he go Batcave? Compared to the other Alfreds on this list, I think I'd go Wayne Manor for him. I think he is wonderful. He's a wonderful father figure. I love the scene in '89 after they do the whole can you pass the salt? Have you ever used this dining room before? Where they Bruce and Vicky Vale on their date go and sit with Alfred and have the dinner together, and he tells the story about Bruce falling off his horse, and that whole paternal nature of that Alfred is just, I just love that. And I know there are better versions of Alfred which we'll come to, which have a bit more in the action, but I just think the relationship between this version of Alfred and that version of Batman is just brilliant, but not quite the most iconic that we've had kind of theatrically. Vicky Vale. I always wished that they brought her back for Returns. I felt it was almost like a Bondian slip, that she was like the love interest who has a history in the comics to some degree, who got used for this film, and I thought they gave her a fairly solid kind of character base as well. You know, they brought in the whole photojournalism thing, the fact that she wasn't just shooting for Vogue, and they made the whole issue of, you know, that she'd been a photographer in the Corto Maltese and that she was this photo artist. I loved all of that. Possibly not the most feminist kind of performance, that she was written that she went on one date with Bruce Wayne and slept with him and then was really upset about the fact that he didn't call her the next day and disappeared. So maybe not the best representation of a strong female character. So maybe she deserves better. I really liked Kim Basinger in the role as well. I wish she'd had more action, and I would have liked to have seen more of her, but I do enjoy what we get of her, I think. This version of Gordon, I really like the way that you said about supporting casts not being developed, because I think that really makes sense and gives some great context to how he is presented the way that he is. even as a kid, I always used to watch this and think, hang on a minute, there needs to be more of a relationship here. Like, I want more of the two of them around the bat signal, up on the rooftop of the GCPD. I want to see more of that dynamic between the two of them. So I think I'd probably give him a deserves better, particularly when you get to Forever and Robin. And I completely understand, and I'll probably get to it more when we get to Alicia Silverstone, but I can kind of understand why they didn't give her the relationship to this version of Golden. They felt it was important to rewrite her differently to make it fit in with the main cast a bit more. But I definitely felt like he could have done more. She's going up there. Now I know I need to think about this more Selena Kyle than Catwoman, but let's just be honest, she's just flipping brilliant. I absolutely love her. When she's unhinged, it's genius. I guess, again, slightly rewritten origin, so maybe she was doing the best with what she had. I'm not so keen maybe on some of the stuff early in the film where she's just the meek kind of secretary, but at least it gives us a motivation for what happens later in the film. But I just think from the moment she starts smashing up her apartment right through the end of the film, she's just absolutely iconic. I would love for it to be a massive surprise that they brought her back for the Flash in some respect. I would love to see if this version of Selena Kyle did come back and ended up with Bruce Wayne in their version of the multiverse, wherever they are. Val Kilmer.
I said she's filming Ant-Man, so you never know. If she's used to being over here, she might have snuck to Warner Brothers one day.
That would literally, if you, I mean, this is really bad, isn't it? But if you want to make the Flash like the go-to right now, it's Michael Keaton and I was about to call her Selena Kyle and Michelle Pfeiffer. But then that's kind of unfair on Ezra Miller's Flash, because we're all excited about the Flash for the fact that we're going to get two Batmen and what that might mean. But that's probably a story for another day. Val Kilmer's Batman definitely deserved better. I'm ignoring the Iceberg Lounge a bit here, aren't I? I'm not very in the middle. I'm very much, you either deserve better or I love you. He definitely did deserve better. So I just rewatched this yesterday, and there is something, I think, when you look at George Clooney and Val Kilmer, I feel like Val Kilmer was a better Batman and an okay Bruce Wayne, and George Clooney was not a very good Batman, but was a fairly good Bruce Wayne. I feel like each of them have got qualities that if you kind of could have just mashed them together, and it was, if you could have like Val Clooney or like George Kilmer, you might have had like a relatively well-rounded version. I'm going to Iceberg Lounge him. I'm going to err on the positive side, because it was the first Batman I saw at the cinema, and George, I think similar to you, totally for me, having grown up watching 66, this being the first one I saw at the cinema, that whole idea of this is Batman, I'm going to go buy all the toys. I loved the bright flashy colors. It was perfect for me for the age that I was where it came out. And then so that I will give I'll give an Iceberg Lounge to Chris O'Donnell as well, because I always really liked the character of Robin. I thought Burt Ward was great. I was reading comics, although not I was reading some of the slightly more kid-friendly comics. So Robin was a character that was a great way into reading comics, because obviously similar kind of age range. So to see him on the big screen, I was really excited to see what they would do with Robin. And I think, like you were saying, I thought they updated the costume really well. I think it makes sense that they aged him up slightly, although even seeing it at the cinema, I was kind of there going, isn't he supposed to be kind of 14? This guy does not look 14. Never really understood why they gave him a brother as well, who didn't really do anything, or I don't think even had a name in the film. Thought that veered off comic continuity slightly, but I thought they had the great beginnings of a really good dynamic duo between Val Kilmer and Chris O'Donnell, which didn't then flow through very well. I didn't feel that George Clooney and Chris O'Donnell had the same kind of chemistry that he'd had with Val Kilmer, so I thought that was a shame. But I felt like he probably deserved better. So he's kind of somewhere between Iceberg Lounge and Amusement Mile, but I felt like he did a good job with the material that he had. And it seemed like he was, again, really enthusiastic in being in the role. And the fact that they somehow managed to write in him being able to say holy rusted metal Batman, and that he managed to like deliver that line without falling off the set, rolling around laughing. I think he deserves some credit for that. Chase Meridian. I remember thinking she was a relatively okay kind of replacement for Vicky Vale the first time I watched it. And then as I've gotten older, I feel like she's possibly an even worse kind of female portrayal than Vicky Vale was, particularly all the kind of falling for the chicks dig the car, the why do I always like the bad boys? It's guys with motorcycles, it's black rubber. I felt like she ended up being a little bit over sexualized in that role. But then they kind of opposite to that had her doing the kickboxing and tried to give her some strength at the same time. So I'm gonna be nice to her. I'm gonna give her she deserves better. I don't know the comic book precedent for that character, but I was reading something the other day that had a Dr. Chase Meridian in it. So they've kind of sort of put her in comics a little bit, and I don't know if she came from it to begin with, but I feel like it's a very of its time love interest where you're starting to see some kind of cognizance of the fact that they need to be more well-rounded characters, but it just fell flat with the whole Joel Schumacher, we're going to make toys, it's going to be very bright and flashy. Mm-hmm. George Clooney is going to Arkham Asylum. I do think he was. No, he is. I do think he had some good charisma as Bruce Wayne. I thought he had a relatively good relationship with. Oh, now I can't remember her name. Julie Madison, the love interest of this film. Mm-hmm. I felt like some of that kind of worked, and you almost explored a different side of him with him thinking about settling down rather than. I mean, you had some of that with Chase Meridian, but it was more of a I'm thinking about settling down, but I'm still not quite over the death of my parents, whereas they at least separated that out for Clooney's version. But then flip side, I just feel like he is sort of almost trying to be like a caricature of Adam West and doesn't quite manage it. There's small details that even now I pick up on when watching it that I had never really picked up on before that make me think that when they were writing this film and when they were kind of doing all the set design and stuff, they were thinking about what would it be like if you made a big budget version of Batman 66. So I was watching it today, and there's the scene where Pamela Isley's first arrived in Gotham and they're just kind of driving around figuring out what to do. And she's putting her wig on for the first time to hide the new like bright red hair, and it just says like Gotham wigs. And it just made me think of all the really cardboard sets from Batman 66 and that idea that everything is just called Gotham something. And there's something about that to me, which is like, that's kind of cool that they were homaging what they'd done in the 60s. But again, something else about it just doesn't quite work as well as Forever does for me. And so I feel like it's more the writing than George Clooney himself, because I mean, he's great in other stuff and he's great in ER at the time. And this was clearly what, I mean, he'd been seen in ER, and that's what kind of got him plucked at from that and put in this film, because he was on the precipice of becoming who he is now. Mm-hmm. But it just didn't work. The material just didn't work for him. Alicia Silverstone is going in amusement mile for me. So I really, even as a kid, was like, no, sorry, that's Barbara Gordon, not Barbara Wilson. Who is Barbara Wilson? What? But I do understand the fact that that version of Commissioner Gordon was not very well developed. So, you know, tying her to Alfred gave her more of a reason to be at Wayne Manor and a reason to put herself in amongst kind of Bruce and Dick and end up in the Batcave. The whole thing of Alfred making a suit for her, yeah, that's weird. That is very weird. And it always bothered me that they put her in a domino mask and didn't give her the full cowl with the ears, although she does get to at least wear it when she's on a motorcycle for all of like one scene.
Yeah, she just takes it straight off. Yeah.
Yeah, because I had a load of the action figures from this film, and all the action figures of Batgirl had the full cowl because it was based on the costume. Like they'd made the toys based on the designs and not the final look. So they'd made the toys so early on in the process that it has a totally different costume to what she wears in the film, which was equally confusing at the age of like 11. But yeah, I felt like she was a very left field choice, having only really been known for kind of Clueless. But I liked that they picked someone who was maybe not obvious, and I felt like she was trying. And apart from her strange pronunciation of compost, I felt like she did an all right job with some of the action stuff. She just, I don't know. She's barely even in it when you rewatch it. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if I'd seen more of her, I'd be able to have more of an opinion on it. But I like the character from the comics. I was excited that they brought her in and we were going to see the trio together. I just wished they'd done more with it, I think is the best way to put it. Kevin Conroy, straight into iconic, best Batman, voice, possibly even edges out Michael Keaton. And in being the best Batman, but Michael Keaton is still going to be my Batman. Mask of the Phantasm is such a brilliant film. There's barely anything that you can say about that film to criticize it. I just think it's so good. Everything about it is perfect for me. I still listen to the score all the time because it's such an iconic. Like the opening sequence is just amazing. It's so grandiose for an animated movie. I wished it had a theatrical run here. I would have loved to have seen it on the big screen. They do sometimes play it at the Prince Charles, but every time I've booked, it's been cancelled due to COVID. So I've not had a chance to see it yet, but one day I hopefully will. But he just, trying to not think about the animated series and just this movie. I love that they worked in an origin, which they've never done in the series. I thought they did a great version of the origin. I love that they brought in a new villain for that film. I thought Kevin Conroy played against it just perfectly. And I think that whole film is one of his like pinnacle moments as Batman for me. This version of Alfred is great in the series, but doesn't have as much to do. I'll put him aside. Goth. I love the image that you picked because I think that's from a great moment in the film where he sees Bruce put the cowl on for the first time, and he's kind of that look of shock and kind of horror at Bruce in the costume. I think is a great moment, but I think overall he gets a little bit lost in the film compared to where he is in the animated series. I think in the series overall you get to see more of him and he gets to interact a bit more. Here it's kind of those choice moments where he appears. So like that one, and then the moment when Bruce is kind of rolling around in the grass with Andrea Beaumont and he kind of walks out with a tray and drops it. He's kind of more of a character piece than being involved in it, I think. This version of Gordon, I can't remember much about his role in the film, so I have to try and separate out my feelings from him in the show. But I think I'll stick him in Wayne Manor because I think there's a great dynamic between them. I think he definitely deserves to be higher than Anthology Gordon. I'm genuinely trying to think how much of a relationship we get to see between the two of them. I'm separating my feelings from the animated series, but overall, great voice portrayal as well. I think over the years he did a really good job of playing Gordon, and it was, I guess for me, probably my first exposure to seeing Gordon and Batman have more of a relationship, even if it's not quite as fully explored as it will be further down the line than the Nolan years. So I think definitely he's not quite iconic, but he's up there. Bale, my old friend. I almost want to put him in Iceberg Lounge. I'm going to go Wayne Manor. So this is my feeling on Christian Bale. I love Batman Begins. I think Batman Begins is an outstanding Batman film. I think it's a great origin. I love everything about that film. I love the fact that they explored the relationship with Ra's al Ghul, the fact that he'd left Gotham and gone traveling, and all of those aspects of the Batman origin. I feel like The Dark Knight isn't a Batman movie. I don't think of it as a Batman movie. It, to me, is a Christopher Nolan movie that stars Batman. And so Bale, some of his actions in that film knock him off from being kind of Batcave worthy for me. So him running around in the daylight, tracking down Joker, doesn't necessarily feel as Batman to me as it could do. And I feel like it gets a bit lost in the Nolan-ness of it. I feel like that film, which is, do not get me wrong, is an absolutely brilliant film. I feel like that's a moment in cinematic history when Nolan became Christopher Nolan. He went from just the guy who directed Batman Begins to Christopher Nolan. And for that reason, I feel like Batman gets a bit lost and then is redeemed a bit in The Dark Knight Rises, which I know some people are not so keen on and felt like was a bit of a dip from where we were in The Dark Knight. But for me, it touches on stuff like the No Man's Land arc from the comics, which is some of my favorite Batman storytelling in history when Gotham is completely decimated and cut off. So it gets extra bonus points for me for touching on some of my favorite comic books from kind of the late 90s and the noughties. So Bale is a great Batman, but he's not my Batman. So for that reason, he gets knocked down and very nearly in the Iceberg Lounge. However, this version of Alfred does get to be iconic for me. I feel like he's going to be almost untouchable for a very long time. I know we've not seen Andy Serkis yet, but from what I know of that version of the character from what we know of it so far, I feel like it's going to be a great portrayal, but I don't think it's going to touch on the relationship that Christian Bale and Michael Caine had in those roles. And that third film speech, when, you know, as far as we know, he believes that Bruce is dead, I think is just heart-wrenching. It's a proper punch in the gut. And I can't imagine anyone else in that trilogy ever even coming close to playing that role than Michael Caine. So for that reason, he is the iconic Alfred. Katie Holmes, however, can go to Arkham Asylum.
Wow. Oh, that shocked me.
Maybe she felt like she was there with a certain Scientology.
So she, for me, I feel really bad for her. I feel like she was miscast. I felt like she was really trying to be on the same level as a lot of the other actors that are in this film. But there's just a couple of moments for me where she goes so off-piece that it ruins it. So there's the moment where she goes to visit Bruce to kind of tell him that she's not going to go to his birthday party, and she drops off the arrowhead. And they're having quite an emotional moment between the two of them. And then her phone rings, and she is so wooden, it's unbelievable. She answers the phone, and she's like,
yeah.
"No, who told you that? I will be there in just a moment." Right, okay. And it's I don't know what it is, but in that moment, I'm like, oh my God, why did you not sack her on the spot and reshoot everything with this woman? Like, please, she's just, and I know that's terrible. I mean, she's, you know, perfectly serviceable. If you watch Dawson's Creek, you know, she was great in a teen drama, but I felt like she was out of her depth in this film, and for that reason, she's resigned to Arkham Asylum. Gary Oldman, so far, definitive Jim Gordon. Amazing to see the relationship between the two of them develop across 3 movies. Amazing to see him go from lieutenant to captain to commissioner. I felt like they really captured him from the comics perfectly there. It would have been nice maybe to have seen a bit, well, I guess maybe they felt it was not necessarily appropriate and probably didn't have the screen time, but to have seen some more of what goes on in his personal life around him as well. So, you know, the fact that Barbara, in theory, is, as in Barbara Senior, not Barbara Junior, is pregnant when they move to Gotham, and he ends up having several affairs with women that he works with in the GCPD. There's a kind of a darker side to his character that we didn't explore. But in terms of his rise through the ranks and his relationship with Batman, I feel like we got it spot on with Oldman. Lucius Fox, I'm going to go Wayne Manor. I thought it was great that we finally got him included. It's nice that he got the spotlight for once, because he's kind of been overlooked before. And I'm shocked that he's actually not going to be in the Batman. They've now said publicly there is no Lucius Fox in this version, unless they decide to write him in later on or give him a lesser role. But it was, for me, it was what was needed to be able to bring that kind of Wayne tech aspect to it, to beef up what's going on in Bruce Wayne's life, and, you know, inheriting the family business and who's running that and where he gets his tech from. I think that was, Nolan was right there to include that and to try and build on that side of things. So for that reason, he's going Wayne Manor. Gyllenhaal is going Iceberg Lounge. So similar to what you were saying, I feel like it's a totally different character. I don't feel like it's the same Rachel. And so for me, it almost could have been a different character. I feel like if she'd been in all 3, it would have worked much better, and we wouldn't have had that disconnect. I feel like Gyllenhaal does a much better job of it, but only being a half a film, it is difficult to say too much about it, other than she had relatively good chemistry with, let's say, Tommy Lee Jones. That'd be the wrong Two-Face. With Aaron Eckhart. So I thought those two worked well together. I like some of the stuff in Wayne Tower when the Joker comes in and attacks, and, you know, she gets thrown off the rooftop. I feel like she works in those scenes, and she's convincing, and I like the way she plays Rachel in her final moments as well. There's a level of acceptance and stuff in the way she portrays that feels quite different, and I like that this feels like a much better version of the kind of the female love interest lead in terms of Batman film. Anne Hathaway's Catwoman is going Wayne Manor. She's definitely not on the same level as Michelle Pfeiffer, but I thought she did a really, really great job in this film. And I'm not an Anne Hathaway fan. When she was cast, I mean, always when people are cast in a Batman film, there's, you know, people will roll their eyes and go, "Oh my God, why did you cast them?" But she, for me, was one of the ones that I was worried about the most, and she changed my opinion pretty quickly. I thought she was great. I loved the way she switches on a dime from being completely nuts, like screaming in the bar, howling and crying, pretending that she's some victim, to then just being absolutely deadpan. I thought she did an outstanding job of playing it, and I feel like there was quite a good relationship between her and Bruce. I don't know that there was quite the chemistry between Hathaway and Bale, but there was enough that I was able to go with it. And I think my biggest drawback for her is this whole idea of the clean slate. I didn't feel like it was very well developed. I thought it was a little bit of a weak way to write her in as to what she's doing in Gotham and what she's after. But it did the job of getting her there. And after that, I think she's great. And I love the cat, the way they work in the cat ears on the goggles as well. I thought that was quite a neat idea of not being too overt in this whole Nolan world of it being grounded. I felt like that was probably the best way that you could do a character like Catwoman. Robin John Blake. What do I think about Robin John Blake? This is difficult because Joseph Gordon-Levitt is amazing, but is he amazing
I've
in
never
this
thought
film?
about his full name until you just said that. Like, I always saw Robin or John Blake. Now it's Robin John Blake. It sounds even worse.
Yeah, it's Robin John Blake. Which almost makes him sound like he's a criminal. You're like, oh, it's Robin John Blake. Oh, it's so difficult because I do love that moment. Is it? What is it?
We'll find out.
Is it? Where's it gonna go? I'm gonna iceberg lounge him. There is something. I think he's a well-written character. I like the fact that he's got a history that makes sense in terms of the fact that he's kind of aware of Bruce Wayne and that he has worked out that Bruce Wayne is Batman. He's kind of stealing a little bit from Tim Drake a bit in terms of the comic origin from kind of working out Batman's identity, I guess. I like that. I like the way that he involves himself in the story, gets involved with Commissioner Gordon, and the fact that he just kind of weaves in and out of things and is quite important to the story overall. And I do think there's something about that final moment of the film where he swings into the Batcave and rises up. There's something about it that works for me, but Robin John Blake, in terms of a name, I don't necessarily agree with. I don't know that you needed to do that. I know that it was sort of Nolan's way of acknowledging the fact that everyone was saying, is this Batman going to have a Robin? Is he going to have a Robin? But I think it would have been better to have left that, just been John Blake. And John Blake was this person who impressed Bruce Wayne so much that he kind of gave him the keys to the kingdom. So I think Iceberg Lounge. Lego Batman is gonna go. He is pretty iconic. Yeah, we'll give him a Batcave. Like you said, it shouldn't have worked, but somehow it really does. And Will Arnett is just great at the voice. And I wish they'd been able to make the sequel. It's a shame that Warner Brothers lost the rights to Lego, and then it went over to Universal, so it'll never happen. Because I think they were quite deep into development on a sequel as well. And there was a story there that they were hoping to tell. I do think that film goes a little bit overboard towards the end, but I have fond memories of it, and he is definitely a very iconic Batman. I'm not a big fan of Michael Cera, but it is hard to deny the fact that he is quite a good Robin. So I think I will. I don't want to. He definitely doesn't deserve better because I think he did really well at what he was given. I'm not personally a massive fan, so I think I'll Iceberg Lounge him. I feel like he is great in the film, great in the context of the film. Not somebody I would have put as Robin in any other medium anywhere else, but in the world of Lego, it works well. I do, however, really like this version of Barbara Gordon. I'm going to Wayne Manor her because I think there's something quite cool about the fact that we actually got to see a kind of a Batgirl and through to Commissioner Gordon as well. Again, just being the kind of age group that I am, I grew up on Batman the Animated Series and Batman Beyond, where you get to see Barbara Gordon as Commissioner of the GCPD. So I feel like there's a cool nod to different eras of her history in that version of the character that puts her up a little bit higher than maybe the Robin. I have to admit, I do not remember anything about this version of Alfred. So I will Iceberg Lounge him because I'm sure I don't remember him being bad, but I don't necessarily remember much about what he did. So I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch it. Right. Affleck.
The DC fans.
We're about to annoy a lot of people. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know where you're going to put him.
It doesn't matter how nice you are, they'll find a way to be insulted.
I'm going to put him in Arkham Asylum. No, I'm going to I'm going to amusement mile him.
Mhm.
So for the exact same reasons that you Wayne managed him, but I feel like he did genuinely deserve better. I do have issue with the fact that he killed a lot of people aggressively, which, I mean, Bale's Batman killed people, Keaton's Batman stuck a bomb on a giant clown in Batman Returns and shoved him into a hole and watched him explode. So, I mean, there is a precedent that theatrical Batman does kill, even though Batman in the comics does not. But he just deserved better. I think he does a great job in Batman versus Superman. He is very aggressive, but I do think that whole fight sequence down at the docks is one of the best Batman fight scenes we've ever had on film. That is a truly iconic Batman moment. Theatrical version of Justice League, massive disservice to Ben Affleck. I think the way they recut him, trying to pull out a love story between Batman and Wonder Woman, pointless. Glad that disappeared very, very quickly. The Snyder Cut, a much better version. I think a much stronger characterization. I think he does a really good job of it. I am excited for him to be back in The Flash. I'm sad that it's the last we'll see of him. I do think he deserved a solo film to have shown us what he could do as a kind of headline Batman. So a brilliant Batman could have been up there with Keaton and with Bale, but deserves better. This version of Alfred, I do feel like he's quite iconic in the role, but doesn't have a huge amount to do. So I think our iceberg lounge him. It's not quite a fully deserves better, because I like the amount that he's in it, even though it's not a huge amount for us to get to know his character. I think he is great in what he does. I love the fact that they made him a lot more involved in what was going on in the Batcave, even more so than Alfred, even more so than Michael Caine. I feel like with the anthology one, you got to see him and Batman Returns kind of in that moment where they're breaking through the Penguin's big speech and making sure everyone in Gotham knows that actually he's a criminal. And that was kind of the most that Alfred did. Then with Michael Caine, he was obviously more involved, but not involved to a point where he was kind of working on the Bat tech. So I love that whole moment where Alfred's working on the Bat cowl and fixing the technology in it for his voice modulator and stuff. I like seeing him be that involved. And for that reason, I think he's really, really great. I would have liked to have seen what he could have done if we'd, again, had the solo film that would have given him a starring role as Alfred. And then J.K. Simmons, last but not least, do I put him? Yeah, I'm going to put him in Deserves Better, because I think what we see of him, he's really, really good. He looks the part, like massively looks the part, which is like, I just had never thought of him before as Commissioner Gordon. But then you see him and you're like, actually, that's weird. He really is J. Jonah Jameson, and he kind of really is Jim Gordon as well. So I think he deserves better, definitely. I am excited from what I've seen of what he's been doing on the set of Batgirl that he's going to be involved in the action, which is going to be great. I think he's actually going to be in there and get some character development. So I'm excited to see more from him. And maybe he will turn up in a scene or two in The Flash, for all we know, if they're going to Gotham, which presumably they are. He might crop up in a few other places as well. So I think there's maybe an exciting future for him. Oh, and that's me. I'm done.
Okay. Right. I'm trying to see if there's any controversial ones on this one. Katie Holmes at the bottom of the stack, right next to Clooney, kind of caught me off guard just a tad. Let me just have a look at some of the other ones. Again, there's kind of a character that I will rank in a very different place towards the middle of the screen. Again, that's been a similarity between the two previous lists so far. But
interesting.
Yeah,
it's quite solid. It's quite all round though. It's quite even as well when you look at the padding. But the Katie Holmes
quite even, aren't
they? The line I always laugh at is is it with Zaz or Scarecrow and the horse when she's shielding Joffrey with the taser and stuff? And now you've pointed out that her dialogue, I'm really like struggling to unhear how bad a lot of it is. And there's some really
there's just something
scenes.
Really. I don't even think it's deadpan. It's genuinely quite wooden and really, really stilted. Like I don't know what she's thinking in her head in terms of how she's trying to put the character across, and that's what bothers me. I feel like even with some other bad performance.
You know, when the guy's behind her and she's got the stun thing, and then obviously Batman takes him out. She does like a really awkward line delivery on that part. I remember now. I'm trying to remember what she actually says.
Yeah, you better run. Is it that bit?
Yes, that's it. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know what it is. I just feel like she's almost in her own head. Like maybe she was there thinking, how did I get here? How am I amongst this caliber of people? And that it just threw her off. I feel like she could have done better. Yeah, for me, it just falls really flat.
No, that's completely fine. So, Chris, any of us?
Any others that jumped out? Well, I could sense a sharp inhale of breath where Christian Bale was placed on that one.
Yeah, I was not prepared for. I was like, okay, I can see Wayne Manor. And I was like, Iceberg Lounge. I was like, my husband has popped out my head. I'm glad that didn't happen.
It's funny because there's this. I mean, everyone knows that Batman is like my jam. That's the top of my pop culture geekness. But that means that when people don't really know me, people automatically assume that The Dark Knight must be my favorite movie of all time. I'm like, no, my favorite movie of all time is Batman Returns.
Oh, okay, nice, yeah.
For me, The Dark Knight is not a Batman movie. It is a great movie, but it's not, to me, a Batman movie. I don't feel like that Gotham doesn't feel like Gotham to me. It feels like it's got no character to it. It feels very real, but it doesn't have the character that Gotham should have for me. And so that's why it kind of falls a little bit flat. But he's still a brilliant Batman.
I think with Dark Knight, sort of off tangent, it is. You mentioned like it's almost like an assumption. I said it's probably right. Okay, it's mine for comic book films, but if like 90% of random people said to you, or like general audience, what's your favorite comic book film? Maybe not now compared to 5 years ago, but it's all going to be like Avengers or Dark Knight, right? The common person is likely to say that. Whereas I think I want to say a lot of people. I know I said the people weren't very 60s Batman. I bet there's a lot of people that haven't seen the Keaton films, which is probably. I mean, I was very late to that party, so I was like, that was post Dark Knight watching them for me. But I kind of see where you're coming from. I think it's like if you say you're a Batman fan, they also assume the Dark Knight, and I think that's the other part that goes with it all. But no, it's a really interesting point of that. I'm just going to close this one off now. So, Chris, you are next, as Goldberg would often say in wrestling. How are you feeling? Are the nerves kicking in? Because I do think it is more. Neil, do you think I was more nervous than you thought just talking through?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So I find myself wavering over a couple of decisions just because I'm like, oh god, I don't want to be too controversial here.
Yeah, I think like going last, like you feel judged a little bit more because that's kind of like I know we're going to be going back through everyone's list and reordering things, but it's kind of like that's like the full stop at the end of the sentence almost, and that's what you leave people with. So hopefully, I think actually I might have some controversial ones. I'm kind of worried, but this is my opinions, damn it, and I'm going to stick to it, and I'm not going to waver for anyone. But yeah, they're always fun to do. It's all in good fun. DC fans, exactly. So don't hate me too much.
And in a month's time, there'll be Robert Pattinson film to talk about, or in 5 years' time, 3 of them.
I think we might have to do an updated list at some point, maybe after the new one at some point, like a little DLC almost.
Can't wait to compare Colin Farrell to Danny DeVito. That's going to be insane.
Yeah. I actually think that he might steal the show in the new film. He looks amazing from the trailer. Right, I'm going to share mine real quick. There we go. So, like you guys, this was almost like the James Bond one. We started off with the James Bond theme. It's like, boom, straight to the top. And that's going to be exactly the same case here. Adam West defined that generation of the comics. And obviously one of the longest serving Batman as well. Not only obviously the 3 series and the movie. I know we're not counting these, but the animated spin-off DC films they did, which was a great send-up. It was almost like a spiritual successor. So now you have almost like a complete Adam West trilogy in a way of Batman films, which I thought was really nice. It's great. That 60s movie is just a blast beginning to end. I think everyone was perfectly cast, villains included as well. And for that reason as well, Burt Ward is also going to the Batcave as well. Can't separate them. It's like Woody and Buzz in Toy Story. You can't separate them. Like they are, as George said, the dynamic duo. And both of them, not one like outshines the other one. They work off each other so brilliantly. And yeah, you wouldn't have it any other way. Oh, then we have this version of Catwoman. I think she's okay. Now, Neil, I completely get what you're saying about the cat noises, but in all honesty, with all the level of stuff that goes down in that film, it's all kind of a package deal for me. Every crummy line, every ham-fisted, like all of it. And I love it. I love the cat noises. I wouldn't have it any other way. It is very strange how she was recast for the movie. I don't quite understand the reasons behind everything there.
Was it scheduling conflicts or something?
Yeah, Julie Newmar couldn't do it. She was doing something else and they just couldn't get her back.
because I watched the movie way before I watched the TV series. Like I hadn't seen any episodes of the TV series, and it was really just that 60s movie for me. And in all fairness, the 60s movie is just like a slightly longer. It's like Phantasm, what we said. It's like a longer version of the animated series. So I always thought this was Catwoman, and then it was, later on in the game, I was like, oh wow, there were the 3 actresses that played Catwoman across the whole 60s era. But I think she's great. So yeah, she's going to go in okay. She's okay. And it's going to kind of be the same thing for some of the supporting cast right now. Commissioner Gordon, I think a lot of the supporting cast, Chief O'Hara as well, kind of all fall into that same kind of category, even into the Burton, but Tim Burton ones, as we mentioned, a lot of the supporting cast are just kind of there for the ride. The focus is elsewhere, which I think it absolutely needs to be. So I think it's just okay. And even, this is tough. Because when I think of Alfred, I do think of like the stiff upper lip, like butler kind of character, and he is exactly that. I think I'm gonna Wayne Manor. I think he is just slightly better than these two. Right? Oh, do I move her? No, we're gonna keep it there. Okay, now we're bringing out the big guns right now. If everyone's followed the channel, you know exactly where I'm going to put this guy. Michael Keaton is going right to the tippy top. The first ever superhero film I ever watched was Batman '89 on video. I remember arguing with my mother for hours and hours and hours to let me watch it because it was a 15 rated certificate, and I was not 15 at the time. And I remember like the black VHS cover, and it almost looked like when you see that like hard R like 15 or 18 rated certificate, you're like, oh, this is like an adult film, and I'm going to watch it. And right from the opening few bars of that with the soundtrack, all the iconic imagery, when I look at that, that is Gotham to me. That is Batman. And yeah, Keaton's just tremendous, and the perfect image right there. That for me, that picture right there sums up for me why he is the most definitive live action Batman we've had so far. That could all change in a few weeks' time. Who knows? Vicky Vale. Iceberg Lounge is my okay category, right? The Amusement Mile is deserved better. Yeah.
That's like deserves better. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to put her in okay. I think she serves the film. She is, I think, George, you had like the perfect comparison right there where you said she's a lot like Willie Scott from Temple of Doom. And I agree. Now, I don't hate Willie Scott in Temple of Doom. She's just different. And that's kind of Vicky Vale for me. She serves the role as the damsel in distress, the person that Batman's got to save. And that's not a bad thing in a superhero film. It is very traditional. And Neil, as you mentioned, like the journalism, the Court of Maltese and everything, there is a basis for a character there. But she does very quickly fall into like the scream. Like, how many times does she scream in this film? And that's basically like it hits a point, like the halfway point, and that's all her character does in every single action scene. But I think she's fine. I love the way that Kim Basinger plays it, and I do think she has some good chemistry in the film. But yeah, there are much better heroines across the Batman anthology. Michael Gough, Alfred, he is, as I said, like the butler kind of character. That's how I always see him, and that paternal quality. Even in films like Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, I think he has some absolutely great moments. And a lot of his scenes, certainly in Batman and Robin, is the real heart and soul of what is otherwise a completely wacky and ridiculous film. But I think his scenes are the only parts of the film where it feels somewhat grounded. And the fact that, as well, he served across the 4 films, as did Pat Hingle, but I think that he's just that nice Alfred. He's the nice, caring, paternal kind of one. He's just fantastic. Pat Hingle, as I say, like when it came to this film and these films, I should say, the focus had to be on sort of Batman, and in many ways the villains kind of outshine Batman in some of them with the amount that they have. I'm going to put him in okay. He's bumbling, he's charming, he does have some quotable lines, quotable moments. I love where he's at Wayne Manor and he's, like rolling the dice at the table and he's not interested in the job kind of thing. But yeah, you're not going to get the same level of, like the family history with the character or the comic book lore or anything, or even when we get to, Gary Oldman's kind of depiction of the character. But he's fine. He's part of the Burton verse to me. Like it's nostalgia kicking in. I love those films and everything, so he's just fine. So I'm kind of separating Catwoman on this one for Selena Kyle, but even with just Selena Kyle, she's going to the Batcave for me. There's a scene from Batman Returns I watch over and over again, and I think it just perfectly sums up. It's the best pairing that we've ever had with Bruce Wayne and Selena, and it's at the ballroom scene. Even a scene which, in many ways, I think Nolan was inspired by when he came to do Dark Knight Rises. There's another ballroom where they're dancing together there. But, some people could view the dialogue and the lines very on the nose, that they are meant to be, equal, the way that they view the world and everything. But that music face to face playing in the background during that dance scene, and just the way that they play off, I think they have wonderful chemistry. Michael Keaton and Michelle Pfeiffer, all the way through that film, even when she's the lowly secretary kind of person. And as you said, Neil, when that Danny Elfman music, that creepy Danny Elfman kicks in, she comes back to that apartment, it crescendos, and she's trashing hell here, and she smashes like the neon letters, and she's absolutely phenomenal. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing the new depiction of Catwoman, but for me, that has set the benchmark forever and always from Batman Returns onwards.
Yeah.
Val Kilmer. So quite controversially, when I watched these films as a kid, I actually think I watched Batman and Robin before I watched Batman Forever. I remember buying them at the same time, but for whatever reason, I went straight. Maybe the front cover looked more appealing to me. I don't know. I watched Batman and Robin before I watched Batman Forever. And Neil, I think you hit a good point there, where that Kilmer plays a much better Batman than he does Bruce Wayne. Because when I'm thinking back to his Bruce Wayne scenes, he lacks any of the kind of charisma or charm that I think you need as a Bruce Wayne, and that really does dock him some points for me. As Batman, I think he's fine.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I was going to say he's almost always Batman, even when he's Bruce Wayne. He doesn't.
Yeah.
There's no real delineation between the two.
And I
the
think
circus scene where he's like, "I'm Batman."
Yeah,
and it's like no one can hear.
It's like you're not Kevin Conroy saying that line. Take a seat, Val Kilmer. And Val Kilmer's a fantastic actor as well. You mentioned like he did Heat the same year. I'm inclined to put him in the bad category, but I know that there was a lot on the cutting room floor with this film that went into sort of the psyche of Batman a lot more, which is inherently what the theme of the film was meant to be hitting on. With that was explained Chase Meridian's inclusion in the film. The block tests and the flashbacks that we get. It's a very confused film, and it feels like a very confused portrayal of the character as well. I am going to put that he deserved better though, because I know there's like this whole arc in the film that got removed where when he sees that vision of the bat flying towards him, there was a whole redemption to that, and you can see the footage. It is on YouTube, and I think if there was like an ultimate, I'm not saying release the Schumacher cut or anything like that for Batman Forever, but I think maybe if we'd have had more of that material in there, it would have elevated him up a little bit more. Although that haunted depiction of Bruce Wayne, I think we are going to get a lot of that with Robert Pattinson's as well, so I'm excited to see that. And but I think it will be done better, maybe, in the new film. We hope. We don't know. It's all speculation. Chris O'Donnell. I think he's okay. I think, if you're going to do a modern depiction of Robin, I think they did the best with what they could with him. I love the origin story. The Flying Grayson scene, I think, is probably one of the best scenes in Batman Forever in many ways. You do change the dynamic of the character considerably, though, by aging him up. Almost to the point where you think, well, he could take care of himself. He's like, for God's sake, he's in his like 20s or maybe even 30s. I don't know how old he was when he played this role. And I think, if you had a younger Robin, there would have been more comparisons there to Bruce Wayne, and, the child kind of lost, needing someone to take him under his wing, maybe. But as I mentioned, the suit and, the 60s line, the holy rusted metal, I didn't really need that line, in all honesty. It's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It is what it is. But I think certainly in Batman Forever, he's much better. This almost goes without saying, but he's so whiny and obnoxious when it comes to Batman and Robin that I kind of just hate him. But in terms of a depiction of Robin, I think he's probably certainly after the 60s one, it was fine. For the 90s, for that kind of film that it was fine. It'll be interesting to see if we ever get another one, because people seem to just like, even in the Snyderverse, he's dead. We've done the death in the family kind of thing. But it'll be interesting to see if we get another Robin in the future. Chase Meridian is going to Arkham Asylum. I think she is by far and away the worst love interest, female protagonist out of any of the films that we've had so far. The over-sexualization is just terrible. And, they kind of do the what would go on to be, probably in many superhero films, but certainly Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man film, the chews and dropping them both at the same time, all seems like it kind of came from this film. This is the one that I always think of with her and Robin in the two tubes in Riddler's lair, but she's just terrible. And I know there's like moments where, the kickboxing scene, and she's trying to have these heart-to-heart moments, but where she's like feeling up his bat tits and like rubbing his bat nipples and like, the over sexualization, this is awful. This is dreadful. And it's almost every single line from her. There is no dynamic there right from the first scene, you know, hot entrance. She's just a woman that wants to fuck Batman, and that's it. That is her character. That is the be all and end all. I can't stand it. I really can't. If I was going to rank the love interest from Batman and Robin, I'd probably put her in the okay category. I like the moments where he's avoiding questions, like you know, trying to settle down with her, and the bit where he accidentally says poison ivy at the table, which is something you should never do. Which brings me on to George Clooney himself. I'm actually not going to put him in Arkham Asylum. I'm going to put him in Blackgate Prison. He is. This is so difficult for me to review this film because I love this film. This is my number one guilty pleasure film of all time. I think tonally it's way more consistent than Batman Forever. I think Batman Forever has a kind of confused identity between it. There's moments where it wants to be this serious and dark and more introspective Batman film, but then you have the crazy wackiness of the Riddler and certainly Two-Face, which counter it almost. Whereas Batman and Robin, it was like, we know exactly what kind of film we're making. We know why we're making this film. It is kind of like a modern send-up of 60s Batman, and we're going to run with it. But there are moments in Clooney's performance where, certainly as Bruce Wayne, I think he's fantastic. You know, he is that charming. He is that billionaire playboy, you know, walking around with a supermodel on his arm. And I see it and I buy it and I like it. And, you know, he's organizing all of these events and charity balls and everything. And even the heart-to-heart moments he has with Alfred in the film, where he's like on his, Alfred's almost on his deathbed and he's sitting beside him and he says, like, I love you, old man. And I believe that in the performance. It's completely out of place in the rest of the film, but there are moments there. His Batman is pretty terrible. You know, he's not even trying. He's not even trying, is he? He's not trying to put on a voice or a bravado, but that is kind of adding to the silliness of the film. I'm not going to put any Batman in Arkham Asylum, though. I will say that, which might be kind of a spoiler maybe for some of the future ones to come. I don't hate women. Look at that. I've got Catwoman right there. I've got Vicky Vale, but Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl is going into Arkham Asylum. I think she's just trash, in all honesty. And I don't blame her. You know, the writing, the material, it is what it is. But I don't believe anything about her character. Like, she shows up out of nowhere and she's Alfred's niece. Like, it's just, yeah. And I think it's the reason that she is in this film, kind of similar to Clooney. She was very popular at the time, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Certainly for the demographic they were going for. But the line delivery and everything about her, I think she's just terrible. And you know, they throw in this thing where she's rebellious and she's doing these completely pointless bike chases and bike races in the film. Why is that there? You know, is that literally just to set up the fact that she can ride a motorbike for about 10 seconds towards the end on ice? It's yeah, I'm not going to belabor the point with her character. She's just kind of worthless in the film. Kevin Conroy, I mean, he is the voice of Batman. We've had lots of voices of Batmans across various animated films and video games, but to me, you're not going to get anyone better to him. When I read a Batman comic now, you know, even with like Hamill, it goes without saying, I picture Kevin Conroy's voice as Batman. The fact that he has come back for some of the DC series as well, it's a beautiful nod to his legacy of the character. And even the Arkham games, which I see as almost a more adult spiritual successor to the animated series itself. He's absolutely wonderful. And if we're focusing on Mask of the Phantasm itself, a fantastic origin story to the character of Batman. It does so much with the character, not just of Batman, but also Bruce Wayne in such a short runtime as well. It packs there's not a wasted scene in that film. It packs so much story in there and character. You get the sense of pathos. And when he delivers line, you know, I am vengeance, I am the night, I am Batman. I know that's the animated series, but even the lines that he has in Phantasm, just absolutely wonderful. And just as from an animation standpoint as well, it's just an iconic look to the character. It's beautifully realized in terms of the animation. Alfred, it is so difficult with these, isn't it, Neil? Like you mentioned, to separate the animated series from the film.
It's really difficult to try and kind of reconcile the two.
I'm going to put him in Wayne Manor. I think he is pretty good, and actually that is one of my favorite scenes from Phantasm. That moment where he first dons the costume and that look of horror, I think it's wonderful. No dialogue needed; it's just the soundtrack, and you get everything you can from the animation itself. But I love the voice and the character, and in many ways, you know, you do kind of have to group the animated series alongside the Burton films because it itself was an offshoot of the iconography and the tone almost of those Tim Burton films that came out. I think even the first few episodes of the animated series borrowed the Danny Elfman main theme as well. before it got into the Shirley Walker stuff. Commissioner Gordon, I've always loved this depiction of Commissioner Gordon. It's going into Wayne Manor. I love the look of the character as well, like the brown trench coat as well. And the voice delivery as well is kind of iconic to the character for me. Even I know there's a whole different voice cast apart from Conroy and Hamill in the Arkham games. But when you got to Arkham Knight, and is it Jonathan Franks? Is it the guy from Breaking Bad? The bald guy who plays, is it Mike in Breaking Bad? That voice just didn't clash. And whenever I see animated Gordon, I always think of this guy. Like, I always imagine that voice should come out of him. But I like that he does always have Batman's back. It's a pretty accurate depiction. But again, with the animated series and even Mask of the Phantasm, the focus has to be elsewhere. It has to set up Batman fundamentally, Andrea Beaumont, and all the the origin story there. I'm going to copy Neil on this one. He's going to go into Wayne Manor for me. Now, if we were talking about Batman Begins in isolation for this, I would probably put him in the Batcave. I love what Christian Bale does with the role. And I think maybe because Batman Begins, that is a Batman film to me. I do think that Batman kind of dwindles a little bit, certainly in The Dark Knight, when, the Joker is the main focus. It's very similar in a way to Batman 89, in that Jack Nicholson's given top billing above Batman, and, he was really fronted. I love the depiction of Batman in the first film, and the look of Gotham as well. The rainy, the narrows and everything, the kind of brown color palette on it. Yeah. That felt like a Gotham City to me. But if I'm looking at the trilogy overall, I was never keen on the voice. And I know that he had the voice a little bit in Batman Begins, but it felt like he doubled down on that voice, whether that was a choice by Christian Bale or whether that was a directional choice by Christopher Nolan, I'm not sure. And there's bits that happen in The Dark Knight. You mentioned like the fighting in daytime, but like fighting in the nightclub, that doesn't feel like someone who's trained with the League of Shadows for 7 years and is like a master ninja would do. Like Batman gets into a nightclub and is just punching bouncers in the face during like this techno music. Although saying that, there looks like there's a scene from the Batman, judging from the trailer, where he's also fighting in a nightclub again. So I might be saying the same thing in a few weeks' time to that, but. Wayne Manor, that category is iconic, and I do think Christian Bale is iconic in the role. And I think for a lot of people who maybe were introduced to Batman through those films, and because it was a trilogy, made so much money as well, so much impact on cinema, I do think that he is kind of the modern benchmark in a lot of ways for Batman. I thought he played a fantastic Bruce Wayne. I will say that Christian Bale absolutely believed it, but second film and third film, it just didn't feel like Batman to me. And that was me. I found it difficult to separate comic book Batman and what I love about the comic book depiction from the film counterpart. And I did have a lot of problems with Dark Knight Rises. Obviously, I've got a record many times with that. But even like the combat and everything, it felt like a nerfed, weak Batman. Even in some of the other ones as well, it just felt very sluggish. I didn't like the way that the action was filmed, essentially, a lot with that. I still think he's fantastic, though, but he's not in the upper echelons. Michael Caine, however, is going to the Batcave. Wonderful. So consistent as well. I do have a lot of problems with Dark Knight Rises. I have so many problems with that film, but Michael Caine is not one of them. And some of the standout moments in that final film for me were everything to do with Alfred. When Michael Caine's breaking down and crying, I'm welling up. I don't like to see Michael Caine cry, and it's getting to me. Even talking about it now, I remember those scenes, and it's getting to me. But I loved with this depiction as well. And, even to a similar extent, I think we kind of got this with Jeremy Irons, but I think we'll probably also get this even more with Andy Serkis. That sort of like old military SAS kind of Alfred. A long time ago, I was in Burma and like everything like that, but you believe it. And I love that, but you still get that kind of more badass side to Alfred. He even knocks out one of the League of Shadows with what does he hit him with? Is it like a fire stoker or a golf club or something? Helps him lift the log off him. He's badass. He's a badass Alfred, but he also does have those qualities from the more butler side of Alfred that I like, which is the paternal stuff. Probably more so than even Michael Gough, I would say, consistently across the films. And he's hilarious. He's brilliant. He gets some of the best one-liners, some of the best moments. I love the bit where he's... The what, sorry?
What's the point of doing this? But you press it, you can't lift the log.
There's even one bit, I think it's in Begin. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in Begins where I think it's when Rachel's recovering and he like lays her in the back of the car and there's people looking at him like, what the hell are you doing? Yeah, he's just wonderful. Easily one of the standouts, which takes us on to Rachel. I'm not going to be as harsh on her as I think. I can't remember. But George, where did you put?
I've got her on mine as Katie Holmes is in the Iceberg Lounge.
Okay.
But after what Neil said, I kind of
you're going to drop her down.
I can't drop her, but I think she'll be at the bottom of that row.
You did address some things there with a wooden delivery, which maybe I hadn't considered before. I'm still going to go with my gut instinct before that information. I'm going to put her in the iceberg. I think she's okay. And actually, this might be controversial. She is my favorite of the two Rachels. And maybe it's because, I mean, George, you mentioned you saw Dark Knight before seeing Batman Begins. I think whichever cast of characters you see first or spend the most time with are going to have that connection to you. And I think starting with, because I watched Begins on DVD, I never watched it in the cinema, but I thought she was just a nice Rachel. And I think she did have good chemistry with Christian Bale, the fact that they were two, childhood friends, childhood sweethearts almost. And I liked that connection that they had with each other. And I think that when you get to Dark Knight, the fact that it's only a year later, she's completely moved on. I think Gyllenhaal, she does make the role her own, but I think to the detriment of the character of Rachel, because she doesn't feel like a continuation of that character at all. I see Maggie Gyllenhaal's Rachel in that second film. I see a different character. The way she carries herself, her line delivery, her mannerisms feel completely divorced from what Katie Holmes brought to it. So I guess I liked that almost like childhood innocence between the two and the past they shared in the first film. And I never really got that connection. And I think that comes with the fact of recasting, getting someone in different. They're never going to truly be or fall into what that the original actor depicted. So I'm going to put her in okay. She's just kind of the heroine again that Batman's got to save, and that's fine. As I say, that's fine. That's not a bad thing to have in a film. Commissioner Gordon with Gary Oldman. I love Jeffrey Wright. I think he's going to be tremendous, especially over a trilogy. Again, we're finally going to see a more fleshed out Commissioner Gordon, but I think it's going to be really, really tough to better Gary Oldman, and it's a feat that I don't think can be done. I don't know how much of the Bat family they're intending to bring in with this new depiction of Batman or anything like that. If it is going to be a trilogy, I'm assuming we're going to get massive time jumps between each one, so maybe we'll see more. And that was the one thing, it did veer off the comic books, but Gary Oldman's character did have a family in there. I remember seeing Batman Begins for the first time, and you see that he's got like a baby daughter. I'm like, oh, is that Barbara Gordon? And I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure it isn't. But he's just fantastic. He's absolutely wonderful. And, seeing him rise through the ranks as well. It's been the first depiction that we've seen where it's like Commissioner Gordon is finally a character, as part of it. And especially in The Dark Knight, where you've got that perfect triangle, of Batman, Harvey Dent, and Commissioner Gordon, which I think is written fantastically between those three. And I love the way that the story's written. It's kind of revolving around all those. Then we got Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox. He's going into the Batcave for me. I love the fact that they introduced the character. And again, if they do bring in a character of Lucius Fox, I don't think you're ever going to top Morgan Freeman. He is Lucius Fox to me. He always will be. Some of the best one-liners, again, in Batman Begins across all of them. I love the back and forth that he has with Bruce Wayne. He gets one of my favorite moments to quote from The Dark Knight, where he's talking to oh God, what's his name? Coleman Reese, yeah. And he's Coleman Reese cracks the code. He's brilliant. He's got it, and he just kind of plan is to blackmail this person. Good luck. Just reads his newspaper. Brilliant. And yeah, the more grounded take on Gotham and everything like that. Alfred kind of always served that role beforehand and even kind of afterwards where, he's the one making the gadgets. But I like that there is that clear divide in that Lucius is the gadgets guy. And I think, updating it, modernizing it and sort of like bringing it, this is military tech and it's tied into Wayne tech and everything. I thought that was absolutely genius. And I don't think you could get a better person than Morgan Freeman to play him. So absolutely in the Batcave. Gyllenhaal, I just really don't care for a depiction at all. I actually think her delivery and moments are pretty wooden in the film. When Joker drops her out the window and she's awkwardly sliding down the roof, screaming, it's just terrible. The bit where she's tied to the oil drums as well, and her voice keeps cracking. She's like, "Harvey, oh Harvey, thank God, are you okay?" I don't buy it at all. And I think I am. It is just because I saw Katie Holmes first, I think, and I was like, that was Rachel to me. Who's this imposter who's come into movie 2? because, Tom Cruise probably wouldn't let her out of the house. I don't know why she didn't come back for it. You can speculate all you like about it. It feels really harsh to put her in Blackgate Prison, especially because I've got George Clooney's Batman there. So I'm just gonna. That wouldn't feel right, in all honesty. I do think she's bad. I'm gonna put her in Amusement Mile. That seems a little bit more fitting. I think she's serviceable for the film, but I do think that you lose a lot of the emotion that maybe would have been. I agree with you guys. If she'd have been in Batman Begins, you'd had a more consistent Rachel. I think that moment in Dark Knight would have been much more impactful than it is for me, because it feels like you're walking into a different character with, very little setup throughout the rest of the film. Anne Hathaway's Catwoman. Now, as I say, I'm not keen on Dark Knight Rises, and from the trailer, I was worried about her, but pretty much from that first scene where she's disguised as the maid in Wayne Manor, you've got Hans Zimmer's score as well, which I think is a beautiful accompaniment to her character as well. Yeah. Like you, Neil, my fears were quickly allayed from the beginning. And alongside Michael Caine, I think she's easily the best thing in that final film. I don't think she has anywhere near the chemistry as you have with Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Keaton. I think that's much better set up, and especially when you get to the ending of Dark Knight Rises, which I've got to recommend many times saying I absolutely hate and I don't buy it at all. But even the Miranda Tate stuff and the love thing that goes on there, it's one of the weakest parts of the film overall for me.
Worst death scene ever.
Yes, yeah, I think we can all agree with that. It's fun to reference. I love referencing it though. It has set the benchmark. But
no, don't. I'm gonna have nightmares about that now.
And she's a fan. I don't know. As a tangent, I don't know how that happened. She's one of the best actresses I've ever seen. Nolan's a brilliant director. What went wrong with that? Was they trying to like?
The only thing I know about that was she'd just given birth, and so they took all of her scenes and shot them in like 3 weeks at the end of production. So they'd shot for like 6 to 8 months of everything else. Then they shoehorned everything of her right into the last couple of weeks of shooting.
Right.
And I think she'd only been out of work having given birth for like 3 months.
Wow.
I remember the set photos of her on the Tumblr where everyone's like, "Oh, could it be Tyler Al Gore?" And then was it Joey King that played the young version? It's like, I played the young Tyler Al Gore, and I was like, that was the point. That was the film I've like Googled set photos for the most of my life, and after that, I was like, you know what? I don't think this is for me for googling set photos. And to be fair, I did forget during the film, but then the turn look at the camera. And then it's just gone.
It makes you wonder, though, doesn't it? If that was the best take, what were the other takes like? Did they film other takes? Did they want to break for lunch early? I don't know, but judging by that, maybe they were rushed for time. Who knows? But the thing is with Anne Hathaway's Catwoman as well, just sort of bringing it back to the tier, is that I love her depiction of the character. She feels like she's from a much more heightened Batman film. Like, she does feel much more comic booky to anything else going on in the film, and I think what's been set up throughout the rest of that trilogy so far. So in many ways she does feel slightly out of place and a little bit more campy than perhaps some of the other stuff throughout the films. That being said, I think she was tremendous. So she's going to go in Wayne Manor. She's not going to hit the Batcave because, as I say, Michelle Pfeiffer, that's going to be a really, really tough act to follow forevermore. But she's easily one of my favorite things about that film. Oh, here we go. This was the moment we've all been waiting for. Oh, God, yeah. Robin.
I like that name.
Robin? I like that name too, but I don't like that name assigned to him in this universe. This to me was, what's the point of this character? With 3 films deep, did we really need to introduce another new cop character? Couldn't we have kind of consolidated Joseph Gordon-Levitt's role in this and just gave it to Commissioner Gordon? Maybe. Like, I don't know. I think it's always the pitfall when you get to a final film and it's like, right, we've suddenly got to introduce a new character, give them this whole involved backstory, and especially with the ramifications of the character as well by the end, that he is given the Batcave, a cop with no ninja training. He hasn't trained with the League of Shadows for 7 years, and it's like, right, did he leave him like an instruction manual? Like, that's how you work everything in the Batcave? I have so many problems with it. I hate the Robin name drop, completely pointless, just got the biggest eye roll out of me. And yeah, I just don't like his character. The fact that his character out of anyone is I worked out Batman's secret identity because he walked in one day and looked sad. Okay, it's just, yeah, and then he's just kind of ferrying kids around at the end, and that's it. Like I find the character completely pointless, and so much of the screen time is given to him as well throughout. I just think like you could
he
have
does get a lot of
taken
screen
that
time.
screen time, devoted it to endless other things in the film, which I think needed to be fleshed out a lot more than they were in the film. He's going to Arkham Asylum for me. I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I really do. I know that after Inception, Christopher Nolan really wanted to work with him again. I'd still love to see Christopher Nolan work with Joseph Gordon-Levitt again. Of course I would. But for this film, the character does absolutely nothing for me. I just kind of hate him. Will Arnett's, okay, we're on to Lego Batman stuff right now. Easily stole the show for me come that first Lego movie, and even Lego Batman, which I have watched less times than the Lego movie, but there was a reason that they decided to give that character his own solo movie, and it worked, and it was brilliant, and I had a great time with it. Yeah, obviously it's a completely different way, two animated Batmans, but you can't really rank him on the same way that you can Kevin Conroy. It's a very, different depiction. It's a much more humorous take on it and everything. But I love Will Arnett as well from, Arrested Development, which is where I saw him before the Lego movie. So to hear that voice and knowing the character that he plays in that, it was wonderful. Michael Cera's Robin. I actually forgot that Michael Cera played this character. Then as soon as I saw the character, I was reminded. I do love the character arc actually between those two in the Lego Batman. I think it is a really sweet character arc. I think it's a good continuation of Batman's character. The voice itself, it is more forgettable for me, and maybe that's just the fact that Lego Batman's been in loads of them, and we've only had one so far. I think it's okay. I think it's an okay voice. I think apart from Burt Ward, I think I'm going to rank the Robins kind of the same. But they do have some great moments, But in terms of the actual depiction of the character, it's fine. I actually don't remember anything from Batgirl in this film, which is really bad. I know that she's like the commissioner, but in terms of her being Batgirl, I really don't remember much. So I'm not going to say she deserved better because, I mean, for God's sake, it's Lego Batman. It's not like it's not Citizen Kane or anything like that. I'm just going to put her in the same kind of realm as Lego Robin. Like she's fine. It was Rosario Dawson, wasn't it? If I remember rightly, yeah. This is really tough. I kind of want to Wayne Manor this guy because it's goddamn Ralph Fiennes. You know what? I am. Maybe it's a little bit high, but I remember seeing the trailers and everything and the clips that were released when the film was coming out, and I was like, oh my god, it's Voldemort. His voice in Alfred. It's brilliant. And I agree. Like I think he would make a wonderful live action Alfred, especially seeing him as M in the recent Bond films. I can imagine that kind of harder edged quality to the character. Given
He looked like the animated series Alfred.
He would look like him,
in live action. And maybe one day. I don't think we'll get it now, but had it not have been Serkis. In another world, Andy Serkis is the Penguin, and Ralph Fiennes is not M. He already is M for the time being. Yeah.
Oh, we're into the controversial 3 now, aren't we? So, Affleck, I think. I'm always going to throw a Lord of the Rings or Hobbit comparison there when I can. I think alongside Guillermo del Toro's version of The Hobbit, I think Ben Affleck's Batman solo film is one of the biggest sort of missed opportunities or tragedies that we'll never see. They're the films that I really wish I could see that I'm never going to be able to see. I remember the news coming out that, number one, when he was cast, this is like a running theme with all the people that cast as Batman, Robert Pattinson included, of course, but everyone was going nuts. I remember sort of like receiving the news. I think I was on a train station somewhere. I had my phone and the news broke that he was playing him. Everyone was freaking out, going crazy. This guy's going to be terrible. He's going to be awful. And I was in his corner from the beginning. I was like, let's just see him. I think he looks the part. I think he could play him fantastically well. By that point, he'd almost had that re-image with Argo and his directing. He was fantastic, and he's acting in those films. The Town as well, he was brilliant in. I was like, let's give him a shot. And I think when you see him on film, and like the hard work he put into it, like in actually working out in being this physically imposing character, I think probably out of most of them, he has had the best combination of being both a great Bruce Wayne and a great Batman. The problem is on the page and the writing and the directing. And for that reason, unsurprisingly, he's going an amusement mile. In all fairness, Michael Keaton's always going to be tippy top for me because it's just so near and dear to my heart. It's nostalgic. But taking that aside, I even think, given the right direction of writing, he could have been better than Bale. I think he could have been probably the most iconic depiction of Batman we had. There's more, I hate Batman versus Superman. with a fiery passion for many reasons. But, you know, there's moments in there where, you know, he's trying to infiltrate and then someone catches him and he's pretending to be, oh, this drunken billionaire, like, oh, I think I had too many drinks or something like that. But he's secretly on a covert mission. That is Bruce Wayne. That is something Batman would do. Love it. The warehouse scene. That was like the Arkham games fully realized, and I think we're going to get that with Robert Pattinson as well. Judging by the trailers, the combat looks phenomenal. But for me, that was the first time where I was seeing Batman fully fighting, chaining combos together, using gadgets, and feeling like Batman. True, he walks up to someone and stabs them in the ribs and probably kills them. You know, he's throwing wooden boxes into people's heads, and with the Snyder cut, you get lovely little digital blood stains that are added to the wall, which are a little bit egregious. And I think that's what it comes down to. That Snyder, he just doesn't know when to quit. And
No, he doesn't,
you know, I am going to be that guy. You know, Batman doesn't kill. I know he has killed. Hell, I've ranked a Batman in the Batcave tier that does kill. He turns the Batmobile round, lets the exhaust out, sets fire to a guy. He straps a bomb to someone, throws him down a sewer. He blows up all of Ace Chemicals, which probably has many workers in there. I get it. But I don't know why I'm more okay with that in that film. I know I'm a complete hypocrite, and
it's because he's not got a Gatling gun machine gun intentionally on his car.
It is, yeah. It's just the lengths he goes to. The bit in the one of the worst bits in Batman versus Superman is that Batmobile chase. I'm like, did you really need to strap the grappling hook to it, flip the car into something else? You know, he's pinballing cars off each other. He's driving over cars. He's machine gunning people, blowing up cars. I'm like, you don't need to go to those lengths to do it. And I think the thing that kind of, I don't want this to be a Batman versus Superman rant, but just while I'm on the topic, it started off so well. You know, one of my biggest problems with Batman versus Steel, Man of Steel, was just how Superman just willingly just massacred a whole city. And again, it's that egregious quality of that direction, which thankfully they acknowledged. I don't think that was part of the plan, but I think due to backlash, they at least acknowledged that, and that was the centerpiece of the sequel. And when you have this really altruistic and heroic Bruce Wayne who's running into the ash, you know, he's trying to save people and he hates Superman for killing people, I thought, perfect, you've set the stage there. We've got our Batman versus Superman. Batman doesn't kill. Superman's killed a whole city. Batman's not going to stand for this. And then as soon as Batman started, it just, where's the argument? Where's the versus here? They're exactly the same character. And yeah, it's such a shame. There's even moments in Suicide Squad where, you know, he's swooping down, he's on top of the Lamborghini as Joker's chasing. I'm like, this is Batman. This is great. And he has been more of a supporting character in the films because we've never had that solo depiction. He can't be in any other category than Amusement Mile. And I think it's a real shame that we never got to see him in his true glory. And I think it did sort of get to Affleck as well, quite rightly so. You know, when he was going to write, direct, star in his own Batman film. I think it was he given a trilogy from the off, or was it just a solo film initially? I think
it was just the one.
And then it dwindled, didn't it? And it's like, oh, you're not directing, but you're still writing and starring. Oh no, now you're not writing, but you're starring, and then
I genuinely still think the only reason he took the role on was to get the directing gig with it, which I would have loved to have seen still to this day. And yeah, and even the whole Matt Reeves. And the thing is, Matt Reeves, some idiots, not even here, but some people try and make out Matt Reeves shoehorned him out. No, he didn't at all. You know, obviously everything happened on Justice League. You know, his health does come first. And you look at those shots of the Justice League reshoots versus Snyder Cut, when you can see physically he isn't there as well. And it is really sad what obviously happened in personal life as well. And that's where I'm kind of feeling with Flash. Like, not that he needs a redemption, but it's kind of like Andrew Garfield in No Way Home. Like, give him the chance. Give him the chance to come in. Give him a final act or something, and he'll have his moment. I don't like calling it a redemption because it makes it like it's bad, but it's just like this is the chance for him to get the source material. I hope that's the key word. I hope he gets the source material to back him up, which we'll find out in November.
We will indeed. So the last two, this is going to be really quick on this one, but I think Affleck needed like his own little piece there. Jeremy Irons, as I mentioned, kind of the Michael Caine thing where it's like, I truly, you know, Jeremy Irons is terrifying. Voice of Scar, for God's sake. And he does have that imposing quality. You can imagine him being a military man, you know, back in his day and everything. And I don't know which cut it is because it was a 4-hour experience, which I'm never going to get back. But and there's a lot in that movie. But you see him like making some of the gadgets and everything. I think doesn't he have like a back and forth with one of them? He felt a bit more jovial, I think, in some of the Snyder cuts of the films a little bit more.
Yeah,
There's more jokes in there. There's more quippiness maybe, and he still does has he does have that underlying concern for Bruce Wayne and the life that he's leading and everything like that. But because we never got that solo Batman film, he's very much. I know he's a supporting character, but I'd say he's even like at the bottom of the list of the supporting characters because there's just so many characters. There's so much stuff going on with those films. I don't deserve better. I think this is going to be a running theme. It's going to be the deserve better. I'm tempted between the Iceberg. You know what? No, I'm going to put him in Iceberg Lounge because I think he is solid. All his scenes in there, I believe he's an Alfred. I like this depiction of Alfred. I just kind of wanted to see more of him.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned earlier, I completely forgot that J.K. Simmons played Commissioner Gordon. I still keep forgetting that Commissioner Gordon is a character in those films. Again, I'm not going to say he's bad because he's not. He's J.K. goddamn Simmons is fantastic, and I think he could make. Well, there's still hope. We might see him more in future films. I think he could make a wonderful Commissioner Gordon. As it is, there's just nothing to go on. Not even an Iceberg Lounge. It's just going to be he deserved better. So I think that concludes my list. Obviously, I'm probably going to reorder some things, but I think, there we go. Yeah, that'll do for now. I think.
I think it's pretty solid. I don't think there's aside from John Blake, I don't think there's a standout. But because I've known you though for so long with that film, it's not a standout personally to me. I don't know how you are with that, Neil, as well. I'm just a bit curious.
No, I know what you mean. I think there is a difference between kind of reconciling the fact that his role, like for me, I quite enjoy his story within the film, but you are right. Was it necessary to have a new character in the third film of a trilogy to tell that story? Could we not have done it with someone else? And that makes perfect sense to me.
And he's so similar from his inception. I know in Inception he's just like talking exposition, but it's like you can tell they enjoyed working with each other. It's like, I'm gonna get you in the new Batman film, and that's probably how it went. And then obviously we got it, and it's I didn't put Matthew Modine on here, but of course we know what would have happened with that stuff too.
Oh god, yeah, forgot about him.
I can't think of any of the standouts.
Right,
so an hour and a half, I famously said. So people at home, we're going to be ranking them now. I think this bit's going to be quicker. The things of Batman, though, like, not to bring up Bond again, but the last month, I've had this epiphany of Batman where maybe because we did all the Bond films last year, I'm starting to see Batman and Spider-Man as the modern James Bond. I've come to accept that there will always be a Batman, there will always be a Spider-Man. When the actors go, they will not stop making them. And I don't want to say it's a cash cow. I think it's the scale of the character in pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
There'll always be demand for it.
Yeah, if you look at, there was a study a few years ago that looked at kind of comic book characters and who were the most prolific within the kind of general audience rather than kind of those of us who are more in the comic book world. And Batman is always the number one, followed by Spider-Man. They are the top two most recognizable characters in popular culture. And even with people like Iron Man, who've come up the ranks from where they were 10, 15 years ago, it's always those two. Those two are the iconic ones.
And I think that's fair with it too. That I think it's just the trajectory that you can have different takes on them. You can have iterations of them. Whereas, I mean, I don't know if that's Superman's history, but I can't imagine a different version of Iron Man. Not Robert Downey Jr., but as in can you really take a different route other than the arrogant billionaire humbled, if that makes sense?
Well, I think it's just the fact that they constantly keep rebooting Spider-Man and Batman, among probably many other heroes that we've had so far. But it is that the evolution of adaptation, and I think it's just fascinating to see what Batman's got 80 years of history, is it? I think at the moment, or coming up to 80
comics.
Years.
Spider-Man's 60th anniversary this year, alongside.
He's one of the old school, and we've had so many different. And with Batman, there's just so many ways to depict that character. You can go full comedic, you can go really serious and dark, you can go really out of your way dark if you want to with it. So it's always fresh, it's always something different, and I like that. So I'm like, keep rebooting them because I just love to see the journey, and it's exactly like James Bond. You want to see who's going to play And the supporting cast is like, right, who's playing the next Alfred? Who's the next Batman? Who's the
Yeah.
next villain? You know, everything around it.
Yeah,
And it's nice now that we're at a point where we're seeing the Bat family get some exposure as well. I mean, say what you will about the Arrowverse, but I think they've done some interesting stuff, particularly this season with Batwoman, that makes her a fairly interesting character. It's nice that they're actually reaching out and using Batgirl in a, you know, not in a supporting way, but giving her her own film. There is talk that they've cast a version of Dick Grayson for the Batgirl film as well that could lead into the very, very long developed Nightwing movie. Separate to that, you've got Titans, which obviously is supposed to be about the Teen Titans, but seems very Bat family heavy. It feels like for a long, long time it's Batman and ignoring some of the wider family, whereas now we're actually digging into that a lot more, and that's quite exciting as a Bat fan.
Even in the video games as well, we've got
Yeah.
is it got Arkham Knight? No, not Arkham Knights.
Gotham Knights.
Gotham Knights, that's it. Yeah, where it's exclusively the Batman family, you know. So.
They've got a Joker film as well. Maybe a Joker 2 starring Willem Dafoe. Who knows? History will repeat itself one day, and we'll get that photo. I just hope he does a photo shoot, you know, in spare time and just puts the photos online. I'll take that. But no, rounding this off, this bit won't be as long, folks. We are ranking our tiers. So you know, we've got our tiers. We're just going to sidestep people. Far left means that's who we want as the best or who at the top. It's gonna be really weird when you've got like Batman next to like Gordon or something. But I'm gonna start from the bottom. George Clooney's on his own at the asylum. I'm not too sorry. Blackgate Prison. I think Nicole Kidman's the worst. Then it's Alicia Silverstone. Yeah, that's about right for me. Who deserved better, more out of Val Kilmer? And that's how the hell do you compare Alfred to Batman? Do you know what I mean? But if I'm going to put this on, I don't want to say like I want to see more of them today. I think from what we saw, who didn't get enough of a shot, I'm actually going to say Alfred there. Just because I love Jeremy Irons as well. And I can't fault his performance as much as I can of Batman's there. The Iceberg Lounge, the OK system, right. Oh, God. This is a bunch of misfits indeed. We haven't got enough for Gordon, so he's kind of going to chill there because I can't say anything bad about him, but I can't say anything good about him. John Blake. Oh God, this is hard. Katie Holmes. Sorry, Neo really changed my mind on her. Alfred again.
My job here is done.
I'm gonna put Pat Ding. Was it Batman and Robin when like he was the original Zoom call when he comes on the car?
Yes,
as well
in the car. Yeah.
I've got.
He's freezing everyone in the museum, Batman. He's turning everyone into blocks of ice.
It's really hard of J.K. Simmons because he just doesn't do anything, and it's not his fault. It's like we've seen so little of him that he doesn't have an impact. He doesn't have a bad impact, but I can't sit there and say he has a better scene than this person.
I mean, he's only in what three scenes?
3 scenes.
You've got the rooftop. There's the scene as they're walking through the GCPD. And then there's where he goes to see them all after the fight in the tunnel. And that's it, isn't it? It's just...
I think all of them were Snyder cut, or did some of the scenes get cut from the Whedon cut into the Snyder cut? I can't remember.
I think he only had one scene in the Whedon one, didn't he? Which was the rooftop.
Oh, that was it.
Put the old Batman theme in for no reason. I really liked Rosario Dawson, you know, and I watched that yesterday, but that is that recency bias. I can't put her above Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I'm going to... Feels very bad, but I'm gonna just going off the Phantasm film, maybe more so. He did 4. Right, okay, that's the Iceberg Lounge done. I'm not gonna lie, I probably wouldn't visit the Iceberg Lounge if someone offered me a ticket. It's not really a crew I'd want to hang out with. I don't know if anyone else would, but
I'd hang out with Katie Holmes. That you know, I'm good.
Well,
I could chill
was it the classic Family Guy sketch when they had like in a cage in the mansion or something?
Yeah.
Is she with Jamie Foxx now? I can't remember. I don't really follow celebrity lifestyles, but I'm sure. I hope she found happiness after. But you know, I'm not gonna lie though. I fucking love Tom Cruise. So
yeah, me too. I can't stay mad at him.
Yeah. Okay, Wayne Manor. Right. I'm gonna stick Affleck at the top just because I think he's gonna set a standard. How do you compare Lego to live action? That's my problem. He's not in the film. He's not in the film much, so he's going to drop down. I don't mind. I love Michael Cera. I didn't mind his Robin, but Ralph Fiennes is Ralph Fiennes. I loved and halfway, so she's going to go up there.
Well, she looks really similar to the 60s one there, doesn't she?
Yeah, I know. I think it's the whole like the eyes and the leather and the hair bits. Oh, see, I love Miss Kick because it's so ridiculous. Like,
I just say, like that film, Adam West's look of realization on his face when he realizes that that's the best bit of the film for me.
Is it the carriage scene? I remember, like Maggie Gyllenhaal. I mean, it's my favorite scene. Like when I'd gone the exercise bike loads, believe it or not, I'd always play the scene where she blows up as my final song for the day, where it gets really intense. I'm gonna put her there for story, maybe more so than performance, because I really like Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Aggressive Expansion. I'm trying to think back to the soundtrack.
Yeah.
No, it's
Is it not?
Is it like a dog chasing cars?
Oh
no, that's the more actiony one.
No, that's the next action. Oh my god, it's on my best of Hans Zimmer playlist that runs for approximately.
No, Aggressive Expansion is the one where he blows up the judge in the car, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's Aggressive Expansion. Agent of Chaos.
That's
Sorry, Agent of Chaos. Okay, right now I've got to do Pfeiffer. This isn't her. I'm just moving.
That's a noise I've never heard you make.
It's really hard. It's really hard to rank some of these.
I think this is the part where you feel more judged for, because this is the
you do, because this is your final.
Locked in.
I really liked Alfred from Lego Batman, so Ralph Fiennes is actually going to go high, and then Michelle Pfeiffer. This is where you two like kick me off the stream. I'm just gonna leave it like this and say that I will watch Batman Returns before his new film, and I'll happily jump on the spoiler review and say, I got this one wrong. But I'm gonna leave it as this. Now I'm struggling with Affleck there because he set a standard, but he deserves better. But we just didn't get enough from him. But the fact he hasn't had his own film and he's there is pretty outstanding as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that says a lot.
So yeah, again, he does deserve better, but I'm going to leave him at Wayne Manor. You're not making it down to the Batcave yet, my friend. But oh god, now we've got to do the top row. This is going to be absolutely chaotic. These two, I'm not leaving them there, but I'm going to keep Batman and Robin locked in for 60s. Together. I'm not going to have anyone splitting them up. They're a duo. They're a unit. I will say that Keaton. I would say Keaton's better than them, although I grew up with them. I think that's a fair compliment. Michael Gough, I'm going to put below them. Oh, God, it's hard to look at. I mean, I saw Phantasm once about 3 hours ago, so I'm really... Because I've seen so much animated series, I'm trying to keep my bias out of it. But I can't avoid, like, Kevin Conroy's... I mean, ignore the TV show. The fact that Arkham games, which I've put hundreds of hours into over the years. But I'm going to maybe bend the rule slightly and put him there because I just can't not have him there because of where I view Batman as a character. Does that make any formal sense?
Yeah.
Although I've only seen Phantasm once. But I love Batman 89. Lego Batman, I really love Will Arnett. And I think he's the closest thing we've actually had to... He's like if Adam West had a baby with Christian Bale's Batman. I'm going to put him there. I think that's polite. And then we get the Nolan films. Oh, God. I don't want to make this too boring. Like, I think for the life of me, it's really hard for me to look at like Lucius Fox and say that he's better than a Batman because he's not. But he's so fantastic in those films. I'm going to put him above Will Arnett. I'd actually like to break him up. Yeah, I can't put him ahead of Adam West. I can't justify that. I can justify that for Gary Oldman at the moment. I can do that. Fucking who's better? Who's better, Michael Caine or Gary Oldman? That is because these two have. Oh no, who's got a more compelling arc, Michael Caine or Gary Oldman? It's like seeing people pick between their babies, isn't it? Like.
Well,
I'm trying to think of my favorite
Michael
scenes.
Caine certainly has the most traumatic because the emotional upheaval that Bruce Wayne selfishly puts poor old Michael Caine through at the end of that final film.
Gary Oldman's kids have to watch Batman get shot at point blank range, and
he awkwardly stacks it. I love that scene in Dark. It's just awkwardly cuts to Batman crumbling after he takes a gunshot.
And I think because Gary Oldman's always been one of my favorite actors, I'm really biased towards him. On top of the fact he's phenomenal in these films, because it's Gary Oldman and he's Big Mo's brother. I'm really struggling to see who's ahead out of these two. I'm going to do something.
Trust your instinct.
Yeah,
my instinct is actually to do this, but I don't think that's fair to have Michael Keaton's Batman below an Alfred and a Commissioner Gordon. So this is where my instinct's broken. Do you see where I'm coming from?
There's
really
an
struggling.
argument to be made that maybe there's more characterization going on with certainly Commissioner Gordon. Maybe
definitely.
This is what I'm scared of. I'm scared about putting Commissioner Gordon at the top. Like, he's not the best character in the whole Batman cinema world, but I'm sat here saying, like, kind of almost is. So
do what feels right, man. This is your tier list. Go for it. If that's what feels right.
I'm gonna come back to Keaton. I'm not sure where I'm putting him. Bale. Oh, this is tough. Right, okay. I'm gonna drop him out of the fact that he's a voice. That sounds really offensive to animated shows. Solving Kevin Conroy. This is really tough. This is a lot more pressure than I thought. Because Kevin Conroy is the voice, but again, if I'm going off Phantasm, I've got to try and ignore the Arkham games.
I mean, even though you've moved Michael Keaton back, he is kind of front and center there. So he is where your eyes
immediately
drawn
to.
to.
It's a phenomenal shot. But I can't. I'm not. I don't want. Because I think the thing I've not spoken about with Bale's Batman is that his Bruce Wayne is unparalleled so far. I know that they've said that Patterson's going to be like a Kurt Cobain type, which I really hope not, given how it ended. But
it makes sense for the music that they've used in the trailer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is it. As long as like Cornelius doesn't appear, we're safe. But I've really, I'm really torn of what to do with these two still, because I can't justify them. I'm going to create a rule. I will not allow those two to be in front of these three Batman. I think that is fair. I'm going to put that on myself, and then I'm going to give this to Keaton just there, because again, he had 2 films. He got to do a bit more. I absolutely love him with Jack Nicholson. I love the "Let's get nuts" line.
Yeah,
I've always loved that line. I think it's one of the best Batman lines in all the films. I feel really bad for Michael Gough.
He's fine. He's in the top tier,
Yeah, Lucius Fox. I can't put you up there, mate. That'd be too unfair. But the thing is, Lucius Fox and Alfred have such great chemistry. But I've waffled for too long. I'm gonna.
Are we locking it in? Is this official?
I'm locking. I'm locking. Right, that's me done now.
We're saving and downloading. Okay, I'm guessing all these will be going up on our socials as well after the video has gone up.
I will. Yeah. I put these on the socials. I'm surprised I've got Keaton second. I'm not going to lie, given that I'm not the biggest fan of Returns, but I'm going to give it. I'm going to rewatch it properly this year. I think that's me settled. I'm not going to lie. I still feel that Commissioner Gordon could actually be at the top, but I'm not doing that because it's inherently a Batman list with Batman. And Adam West is like as the best for someone that's like had no character development for however many years of TV and films. I think he's an extraordinary to be there.
Yeah.
And he deserves to be there because Adam West like is Batman in a really weird way. Like Michael Keaton is Batman, Kevin Conroy is Batman, but like Adam West is that sort of like fun uncle that you don't know why they're there. He was like Mayor West, obviously, wasn't he? In Family Guy. Like, and the whole joke was that he was like a cliche of himself. That's how I feel like of him as Batman. So this is me leaving my list locked in. I'm still torn. I feel sad that Michael Goff's looking at no one. But that's just the way it's going to go.
That's the way it's going to go. Okay, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, that probably felt about 10 minutes. What's the controversial one?
The controversial one.
I feel like that. I feel in my head that this is the Iceberg Lounge is pathetic. Like, I honestly wouldn't visit them.
I mean, knowing how much you love the Nolan ones, I think it's fair. And as I said, like there probably is more character nuance and character development going on for Commissioner Gordon, possibly even Alfred as well, then you could even make the argument for Michael Keaton's Batman. But it is just the image, isn't it, of Michael Keaton's Batman? So I think that's absolutely a fair top 3. I think that's a fair top row in all fairness.
They're the only ones that had 3 films, and they do have an advantage inherently off that, and it's spread out across 8 years in canon, whatever. So yeah, I think I'm fine. So it was how quick all these other ones were, and then you get to this, and you're like, how the hell do I proceed from here? But no, that's my Batcave. Really random question: if you guys could have anyone's Batcave, which Batman would it be? That's really
Keaton.
Point.
Keaton, all the way.
I mean, Keaton doesn't believe in handrails, which looks absolutely terrifying. Like, you've got to park that. I'm not good at parking my car. I'd never make it out of there. I'd have to do like a 30-point turn to get out of the Batcave.
Well, actually, to be fair, I maybe I shouldn't jump to Keaton. Maybe I should say Conroy. Conroy's is pretty cool. Although no handrails there either, I don't think.
Does Lego Batman? Do you get to build the Lego Batmobiles, and then I'll be there for free?
I mean, I think Bale's in. I mean, it's not even the Batcave, is it? It's like
no, it's just an underground well
bunker, kind of. Yeah. You know what? I'm actually going to say the Snyderverse one because it looks kind of serene. You've got the nice waterfall going on. You know, you got your computer set up in there. The Batmobile comes like racing out of the river, which is like epic, and I love it. So I'd probably go with that one, in all honesty.
Nice. Right, that is my ranking done. Yeah, the pressure is off me. I feel like a weight is lifted off my shoulder. Neil, brace yourself, because I think this is tougher than it sounds, unless you just rapidly have already done it in your head.
No, well, a little bit. So Arkham Asylum is staying as is. Sorry, Katie Holmes, you are the worst of the worst. Lee Merriweather, perfectly all right on her own there. So Amusement Mile of deserving better. Affleck is going up the top, followed, I think, by J.K. Simmons, followed by She Deserved It, but just worst characterization ever. If you could have just written her as the actual character from the comic books, it would have been infinitely better to begin with. I reckon followed by Vicky Vale, followed by Anthology Gordon. Yeah, that feels okay to me for Amusement Mile. Iceberg Lounge, I am going to put I think part of me wants to put this version of Alfred up top, but I think I'm going to leave that dynamic duo there, and then I'm going to go with Alfred, Robin John Blake, and then we're going to have, I'm going to leave Maggie in last place, I think, for that one. Let's put Alfred above. I know I said I don't remember much about him, but given that it's Ralph Fiennes and I don't really like Michael Cera, I reckon that'll do. Wayne Manor, let's put, I'm going to put this version of Gordon up first, followed by Bale, followed by Lucius. We're going to have a bit of a Nolan trilogy in there. And then I think those three are pretty good.
Yeah.
Right,
to me. I feel quite comfortable with that.
We're at the tippy top now then. This is the make or break.
Easy number 1. Easy number 2. Gonna stick Pfeiffer in there. I'm gonna put Kane. And I think that to me feels pretty comfortable. Michael Keaton, absolutely definitive. Probably had more of an impact on the entire trajectory of my life than he will ever know. Conroy, just, love Michelle Pfeiffer's version of Catwoman. Kane, the definitive Alfred. Adam West, Burt Ward, because you just can't top those two. And, you know, he deserves it for running around with a bomb for 2 to 3 minutes in this film. Because some days you just don't know how, you just can't get rid of a bomb.
It's the marching band that makes that scene every time.
And the nun, don't forget the nun. Followed by Gary Oldman. Do I want? Yeah, no, that's it. I'm locking it there. I'm going with the gut. That's me.
Damn.
Perfect.
I think that's a pretty incredible
top
view, actually. Yeah, I think I might be fairly similar with mine, in all fairness. We'll see. But absolutely solid.
No, sorry, Katie Holmes.
No need to apologise to her. She's made the list to at least a point. Chris, I just need to bring yours back on.
Yeah, I'm just bringing it back on now. I don't know what happened there.
Perfect.
There we go. Okay, right. I'm gonna start at the bottom again. Well, just the fact that he had a character, I'm gonna move him to the left-hand side of that because he's to a lesser degree than these two. She's going at the bottom because she's just utterly dreadful in that film. Yeah, Nicole Kidman, she's fine. She's fine for what she is, but absolutely dreadful in that film.
Isn't she Aquaman's mom? I've not seen
Yes,
She is.
yeah, she is. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh my god, you've not seen Aquaman?
No, I missed it like unintentionally, and then without getting into about a certain actress, I just wouldn't watch it on principle after. So
it was a stacked month as well. In all fairness, I seem to
yeah,
remember.
was it
Mary
the
Poppins,
same?
There was Bumblebee,
Mary Poppins, Spider-Man, Bumblebee. I remember a lot of films came out that month.
Yeah,
but I did want to watch it. I like Jason Momoa, and I've got to say that I just so unfortunate.
my man.
And I heard Black Mamba's really cool in it.
Yeah.
Oh, Black Manta. Yeah.
Black Manta. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I know he was cool. It looks like a Power Ranger villain. He's great. Okay, Amusement Mile. So deserve better. Yeah, this is no surprises there. Get Affleck to the front. It's going to be like the whole. Oh my god, no, my mouse. No, this is not now. Come on. Oh, guys, this might be. This is guys. Stall for time. I'm switching batteries. This is actually kind of disastrous. Oh my god.
That's
Aquaman
fine.
was actually my first. Was my first press screening. Aquaman.
Really?
That was when things really started to take off with the podcast and the website and stuff. Was Aquaman, which kind of fits my character perfectly, being DC.
This is the thing with Aquaman. So because I like Momoa. I think when I met him, I was very lucky. It was around the time. Do you remember the first batch of BVS posters, which was Unite the Seven, and we only ever got 6, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget them. And he looked so cool. And I loved Game of Thrones. I was like, yeah, I'm in Aquaman. I'm in for Aquaman. And I just genuinely, it was when I was working in London. I remember coming home for Christmas. And I remember definitely, I think, Chris, you were right. It's 100%. I remember watching Bumblebee at the cinema, Mary Poppins at the cinema, and Spider-Verse. And I missed Aquaman. And that was the year I was really annoyed that Solo didn't come out in December. Because Solo would have made $1 billion easy. And they said they released it at the same time as Infinity War. And it bombed. And Iger admitted it. And I was so surprised that Aquaman hit $1 billion. And I just never got around to it. And the thing is, was it 2018, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I just don't know why I never went round to it. And then obviously, without getting too much into the Depp Amber Heard stuff, I think the final straw for me has been her being in Aquaman 2. And I don't think it's going to make its December release date. I think they're going to push it maybe a month to avoid Avatar. Because I think
wouldn't be surprised if they moved it to get out of the way of Avatar.
I think Avatar 2 is going to be a sleeper hit.
We're back in business, folks. The batteries have been changed. We're fine. That could have been disastrous. I wouldn't have known what to have done. But there we go. Okay, so yeah, Affleck's at the tippy top. Obviously deserve better for all the reasons I went into. Following suit with the DCEU, we're going to have J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon, a character that I want to see more of, that I probably will see more of, but you kind of wanted to see more of him within those films that we already had. Next, I'm probably going to keep that as Kilmer. There were glimmers of a really good, dark, cerebral Batman film there, but it just kind of had a missed identity almost. And then, Maggie Gyllenhaal's just kind of there. Right. Iceberg Lounge. Right. Let's have a look at the motley crew of people we've got. See, my nostalgia's kicking in. I want to put Vicky Vale at the front, but is she a better character? You know what? Yeah, we're just going to go gut instinct on this one. I'm just going to move things around. Vicky Vale at the front. Oh, God, I can feel you two guys judging me by moving her that far over to the left. That could change. I really like her. Yeah, Pat Hingle would probably go next.
Actually, looking at it side by side, do you reckon Kate Holmes would have made a good Catwoman?
Oh, I don't know if she...
Not because she's got
maybe
she's got the physicality for it, but
she's quite small. We need to be quite nimble, wouldn't she?
Then we're gonna have. It just comes down to the fact that I saw more of it. Like, do I put
whatever you think?
Like Jeremy Irons is like on paper better, like in the role, but we just get much more Robin to actually talk about and digest than we ever did Alfred. No, it's Jeremy goddamn Irons, isn't he? No, I'm gonna. He's probably better than him. But I get more guilty pleasure appeal from Catwoman. So, okay, I'm going to lock it there, I think. And then these ones, probably going to go there. Okay, I may come back. I think that's fine. I may come back to it. Then we get to Wayne Manor. So animated. Okay, probably gonna move. Oh, I kind of want to drop it. Is it really bad that I remember Ralph Fiennes Alfred more than I do the Alfred from the 60s?
No, it's Ralph Fiennes.
Maybe. Yeah, it is Ralph goddamn Fiennes. You know, that voice has got staying power. So, okay, we're gonna go there. Then we will probably have. I really like Commissioner Gordon, but if I'm going by Phantasm, I would kind of drop it to there. But yeah, because there's just more to say, I guess. Probably going to go there. Yeah, then Catwoman, then, yeah, he's at the tippy top of Wayne Manor. Of course he is. Now, the top. Yeah, okay, let's just start from the left. Without a doubt, best live action Batman.
Right
Kevin
answer.
Conroy, without a doubt, best animated, best voice of Batman. And it is the Batman thing, isn't it? Because I'm looking at Adam West and Burt Ward right now, and they're so goddamn iconic, and they're so amazing and incredible at what they do. But I love Pfeiffer, and I kind of want to move her to third just because I love those two together. I think I'm going to have to do it because just Pfeiffer's fantastic in that role as both Selena Kyle and Catwoman. She's just absolutely extraordinary. Keeping those two together exactly where they are. Michael Caine, because I just absolutely adore the guy. He's amazing in every way. I'm probably going to put Commissioner Gordon above Alfred. I want to get a little bit of trilogy of my own going right there as well because I love Morgan Freeman. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to do it. Yeah, then Michael Gough, love him. And then Lego Batman at the rear right there. Oh, but I got Lego Batman above Chris. Am I allowed to move things between? Like move something back down? Because I feel bad that Will Arnett Batman, Lego Batman is a tier above Christian Bale. That doesn't sit right to me to see it there.
I'll let you swap it because it's Christian Bale.
I just like. I mean, it's what's a more consistent Batman, but obviously there is like Batman Begins alone. Like for God's sake, come on, that on its own is okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to lock it there. I think that's fine. Iceberg Lounge kind of interchangeable for me. I will say I'd probably want to hang out at this Iceberg Lounge maybe more than some of the other ones.
That's pretty good.
Yes, I mean, certainly this left-hand side, definitely. Jeremy Irons, kicking back with Jeremy Irons would be terrifying. I'd be on edge the whole time, but yeah, okay. Save and download right there, I think. I think that's me done.
Perfect. Right. So everybody at home, thank you for sticking with us. This has been, I'm not going to lie, this has been amazing because character discussions are something we don't really get to do on the channel. And when we've done them, it's been Battle of the Brackets. It's been arguing, as great as that show is. And I love that show and we want to bring it back. It's peaceful. It's talking about Batman. It's everyone getting the same thoughts on those characters. And I think it's been a blast night. I don't mind it's gone over. I'm sorry, it's Sunday night for the time recording. It's very late. But I don't even know how to proceed with that. Neil, firstly, thank you for coming on. I'm glad to have got you on for this. No, it's been an absolute pleasure. And what I want to do before we go over what's coming next, I want to talk about your channel. For those that don't follow you, I'm going to bring up on the screen in case they haven't worked out what gets covered on the channel. If you want to let them know where they can find you as well and what we've got going on.
Okay, cool. So you can catch me fortnightly on our podcast. So it's the Get Your Comic Con podcast. We're on all major platforms. Website, which is scrolling along beneath me right now, getyourcomiccon.co.uk. We have an amazing team of writers who are reviewing comics, TV shows, movies, everything kind of pop culture. We try and cover as much of kind of what's going on news-wise at the moment. We try not to go too much into the random rumors and scuttlebutt that goes on. We try and stick to what are the facts on what's going on. We don't do clickbait as much as physically possible because I can't stand it. So we try and just deal in what's going on at the moment and kind of commentary it from fans to fans out there in the world. So yeah, you can find us on all social media channels at Get Your Comic Con.
Definitely, everyone, please follow them, check them out. There's some really good stuff. I know you've got a new YouTube channel as well, which we're getting built back up as well.
So we had a bit of a rough one at Christmas. So our YouTube channel was mainly just trailers and interview clips and just press stuff that we get sent. But every now and then you get a studio that's not very happy about something you put on there, and someone had me banned for life. So I took that as happening like literally right before sort of New Year and went, you know what? It's about time we did some original content. So we've just restarted it and everything now is just originals. So it's all just commentary. At the moment, it's mainly Batman and Batgirl stuff. So I've just done a history on Barbara Gordon for those who don't know about her for the upcoming film. and obviously loads of the Batman content, because that's all I care about right now.
Definitely.
It's
everyone
epic. Yeah,
check them out. I'm excited for this, and as I said, there is a new Batman film out, and fingers crossed we get to see some stuff on the channel as well. I'm not going to say anything more than that.
Yes, we will see what's happening. We'll know soon.
It is, and I guess we can talk about the next tier list, right? If it wasn't obvious, we don't have a recording date, but I'm sure it will be out a week from today at the time it's going up. It's going to be a tier list on villains. If that wasn't already teed up, we can actually get to send Joe a letter to Arkham Asylum, which is probably his dream in absolute truth, to get into method acting. No, so we'll have more details on that on socials across the week. As always, we've got, I want to say, lots of happening on the channel. We are recording this 5 days early. By the time this video goes up, Chris, the Book of Boba Fett would have finished. We didn't even know if it's any good. It might be awful. I might be ranting. I never rant. It might be amazing, and I'm over my head hype. So this is a look into the future for those that would have seen that. The Oscar predictions will be out. There may also be ranting about who's predicting what films were snubs. If it's like BAFTA where Denis Villeneuve gets like every nomination possible except Best Director, then there will be things that are thrown and all that kind of stuff. So it's not happening on the channel, but as we keep saying, there is Batman stuff coming every Friday. It's really interesting because it's sort of hit us out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere. We've known this was coming for so long. It's nice to do some Batman stuff that we've not really done in the channel's history. And as well, everybody at home, as we keep saying, comment your thoughts. Let us know your tier list if you filled yours out over the course of this video. Tweet it to us. Share the link, not just this video, to the tier maker. You can share it with your friends. It's not like an exclusive thing. The Bond one went viral, and we'd never really done viral before, and I had to mute notifications. I'm so sorry to the people that kept tweeting us, but it was too much. And I'm not used to that kind of thing. And so do check that out. Social media to tweet us if you disagree with us, of course. Twitter at @cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy. Chris, I'm trying to predict the future. What else is coming out? I don't actually.
Oh my god! Well, I mean, there's some big films coming out, aren't there, over the next couple of weeks? Some like big blockbuster ones, almost. Well, we hope they will be. We've got Uncharted, Death on the Nile, which feels like an eternity since that trailer's come out. So there's a lot of big films. It's really, for the big update, go and watch our update video that we did a few weeks ago, where we kind of highlight everything we've got coming out in the year. But we are, getting the seeds of Oscar season coming in, and just expect more reviews, more content for that, more competitive prediction lists from me, you, and Tate, of course. And but just keep it right here for the Batman content every week. It's amazing. I love talking Batman stuff. Here's my boy. Batman's always been my boy. Neil, this is the first time that we actually got to properly talk tonight. It's always a pleasure talking Batman. So again, thank you for jumping on tonight. It's been wonderful. We're going to keep on trucking with movies, everything in between. It's all good fun. So as I say, it's been very cordial tonight. It's all been very, respectful opinions and everything like that. We hope you do the same as well when you get your comments in, because we know what some of you DC fanboys are like. Don't be like those. Be better. And with that said, with that pep talk over, that'll do it from us until the next video. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.